Surprise! It's a new, well, not really new episode of RPGibberish. Um, this is a quick announcement that I am recording in November 2013, so today. Um, Very interesting is I was going through my notebook and I actually found what I thought to be lost audio files of the actual last episode of RPGibberish that re-recorded, and I'm not kidding you guys here, in December 2012. So I was going through a rough phase, very busy at work, and time zones weren't really working out. So Greg and I decided to put RPGibberish on hiatus. Well, this is no surprise to anybody out there, as this is our first upload over a entire year. So I truly apologize for not having a proper hiatus video up on the RPGibberish channel, because in the podcast that will follow after my announcement, which is about 2.5 hours long, we'll also mention that we'll take a hiatus. So I first of all, I apologize to Greg for not uploading this back in December 2012. And of course to all the fans, and listeners for the year or year and a half that we did RPGibberish. In any case, I found the audio files and I decided to upload it and kind of treat it as a time capsule. Very interesting. JRPGs were very at a high anticipation point at the end of 2012. We came off a relatively strong year, and we were anticipating titles like Ni No Kuni, Fire Emblem Awakening, Shin Megami Tensei 4, Legend of Hero Trails in the Sky, second chapter, Ys 4, a couple of other big RPGs that we talk about in this episode. So if you kind of treat this episode as a kind of look back at the state of JRPG gaming at the end of 2012, it might be an interesting listen while you're grinding in your RPG, as we figured many of you are doing it, are you listening to RPGibberish that way. And I haven't listened to the episode entirely, so if there are any mistakes in terms of audio, I apologize for that. If it's really too bad, I'll probably take it offline. Yeah. It's going to be an interesting way to kind of treat this as a time capsule. So leave a comment below what your thoughts are on the discussions that we talked about, and I will try to do the same in the comments to kind of talk about my own anticipation and see what came across of this. So in any case, I hope you guys will enjoy this episode. I cannot make any promise whatsoever right now if there's going to be a revival on RPGibberish. To be honest, I haven't talked to Greg about this editing this particular episode. So Greg, if you're watching, like I mentioned, this was probably a big surprise for you as well. In any case, we will have to see if there's maybe a revival for RPGibberish or something like that. I am however in the mood to talk about some RPGs, so maybe I'll do a spin-off, some solo JRPG podcast or something like that. In any case, I hope you guys will enjoy the upcoming episode. I do again apologize, but I hope you guys will enjoy it. So for those trusted RPGibberish fans that we had and followers, big apologies, and I hope you guys will enjoy this final episode of RPGibberish for now, and maybe for a very, very long time or forever. So in any case, I hope you guys will enjoy it. Welcome back to RPGibberish, and this is going to be a special episode. Whether for good or for bad, we have some very interesting announcements to make. And as you can see, we're nearing the end of 2012, and RPGibberish hasn't really been all that active. We had about 5 or 6 episodes in the last year, where, of course, in 2012, and we only started in like August of 2011, we had like 10, 12 episodes. Yeah, we got some interesting announcements to make in that regard, and we're going to be talking about how 2012 went in terms of JRPGs, and also see what's on the horizon in terms of next year. But yeah, as always, I'm back. It's been about 5 months. The last RPGibberish episode that I recorded was the Operation Rainfall episode. But of course, my great friend Greg who's also here, has been taking care of RPGibberish. So, Greg, first of all, big thanks for keeping RPGibberish running the last few months. And how's everybody been going?
Well, define the word running. I've kept it alive just
Yeah.
because there's been some gaps, but no problem. I've had a lot of fun talking with our good friends on YouTube, especially the last episode, TGS, even though that was extremely late, which will lead into one of the sad announcements that we're going to talk about very soon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's understandable, TGS. I listened to the entire episode, last week. I was pretty surprised that we got Pete on. It's always nice, to see these pretty, inspirational and bigger YouTube channels who've been around for years. I've seen a lot of support to the smaller podcasts as well. So it was great we got Pete on. Too bad I wasn't able to talk to him as well, but it was a pretty good episode. Even though TGS wasn't the best TGS I've ever seen, but it was interesting, and there were some new thoughts and on some games that I missed out on. And the information itself is still pretty accurate. Even though it was made in September, there hasn't really been any big shifts over the last 2 or 3 months. So good episode. I really enjoyed that one. So yeah.
No, I really enjoyed talking to Pete and Taylor, a different kind of Taylor from Gaming Shelf. He has a really remarkable channel. Like I said in the last episode, definitely check out his videos.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
really,
I subscribed to him and watched 2 or 3 videos. It's really good stuff so far. So I gotta check out some more. But yeah, it's at first I was like, oh, this is a different Taylor. Strange.
no, I think one thing we can definitely say at RPGibberish is we're surrounded in a community full of great individuals that have great tastes in gaming. Um, Pretty much everyone knows that I'm hardcore into the more obscure, old school Japanese made games, which is something that's never changed throughout my life. And just notice most of the people that I hang about, talk to on YouTube, we're all got that same passion for the old retro ways and anything made in Japan.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm pretty much the same way. Just enjoy playing Japanese games way more than Western games, especially the last couple of years. And it's always more enjoyable to just find out about some of those hidden gems that have been around for 20 years, in the land of the rising sun, and being able to play that now with emulators, or with fan translations out there. It's or even remakes and stuff. It's great. I really enjoy playing those types of games. So
Hmm. Speaking of translations, I've actually got one I want to talk about later on that is very remarkable, and it's actually been finished.
oh, I hope I know what you've been talking about, because I actually made special mention about it in my top 10 favorite games of 2012. If we're talking about the same thing, that is.
Yeah, we'll check that out. But
All right.
first, I think it's come to the time where we let everyone know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
And
I think it's yeah. You can go ahead. It's better if you explain it, because yeah, just go ahead.
alrighty, this episode you're listening to, dear listeners, is actually going to be the final episode of RP Gibberish. This has been a long time coming. Now, as I said before, the TGS episode took 2 months to edit. And for someone to be in the position of organizing a podcast, it should not take 2 months to release an episode. It should be edited as soon as possible. Now, if you've actually got circumstances that prevent you from happening, that's okay. But in all honesty, there wasn't anything that could have stopped me. And I did not have the passion I once did. And I can definitely say there's a difference between editing videos and editing audio. And you may think editing audio is much easier, but it's actually more time consuming and it's way more intricate. And mostly I kind of got stressed out with the whole ordeal. And I would edit like parts of a podcast, and by the time the TGS episode got around, the plus side was I got to listen to the great conversation I had, but at the same time, I did not really enjoy the process that much. The other major reason that I decided to, we decided to close RPGibberish is to focus on our individual YouTube channels that we both originated from. I have some big plans over the course of the year. I have been learning new techniques and I've been deciding on new ideas for videos. And for 2013, I've got some very interesting things developing, and I want to focus on my channel rather than focus on RPGibberish. And so I made the choice to close the podcast.
Yeah, it came as a big surprise. About last week, Greg contacted me on Skype and told me about the plans. Now I felt about it, and well, yeah, I gotta be honest. It was a great start, from the get-go, but we ran into some issues, especially in 2012. With my job, it's been very hectic. We had the time zone thing, which was hard as well.
I would definitely say, sorry to cut you, but I think I would definitely have to say that was the biggest roadblock with RPGibberish was the time zones, and your time zone's not very favorable, and I felt always bad about that. And if we wanted to connect with our friends in America, one of us would have to suffer through the early mornings,
Yeah.
which I didn't think was fair on any of us.
No,
And
that was really hard, and then especially the last couple of months, whenever we usually recorded in the weekends, and whenever I got in the weekends, I usually had a lot of planned stuff, cleaning up, doing groceries, and I couldn't really afford, Saturday morning, staying a couple hours. Sure, I could have done it in the evening, but then of course it's nighttime, in Australia, and let alone bringing guests from America or the United States. It's really, really hard. That's definitely one of the big deciding factors for sure.
so yeah, there's a few mitigating factors, and
Yeah.
of course we had plenty of ideas, but some of them didn't work out. And at the same time, a lot of the ideas that I had in mind that I was going to do for my YouTube channel anyway, so I didn't particularly want to double up.
No, I definitely. Yeah, it's a good idea to focus on the channels more. I got to be honest, people who've been subscribed to my channel, I've been going through some rough patches recently. I'm all alone again. My relationship broke up, and so yeah, I got more time on my own now, and I want to delve into YouTube as well. I've been recording a lot of great videos and some interesting stuff on games, but yeah, it's I want to get into that first and then see how that goes. I got to get back into editing, which I've always felt is never one of my strong points as well. I always rushed it. In terms of RPGibberish editing, I always kept good notes in terms of times where I needed to cut stuff out, but I never went through entire audio recordings. I just, I really did a sloppy job of just getting everything edited as swiftly as possible and getting it out as soon as possible without focusing on the hardcore quality, but just cutting out, the errors that we made along the way. But yeah, I want to see how the YouTube getting back into the YouTube community, making some interesting videos again, and not just pick up videos that I've, had to force myself to do over the last, couple of months. Just, yeah, I want to get back into the YouTube stuff, and think that should be our first priority. And, who knows what will happen in the future,
Yeah, one thing I've definitely done on my channel is I've cut down my pickups video. Instead of doing them every month, I do them every season, every 3 months. And it makes for a better video because you can show what I've been doing over the course of 3 months. And I've still got one more to do before the end of the year. But one of my plans is to focus less on pickups and focus more on interesting ideas for videos, not going just for straight reviews of games. And I'm not going to say what they are because I have a bad history of making promises that don't pan out. So I basically keep it as secretive as I can. The best videos that I've seen myself that I've done so far are videos based on announcements, and I arrive the euphoria of said announcement. Like one of the most bizarre videos I've done, I would easily say it's probably one of my favorite videos I've ever done because it's so much fun, was my Dragon Quest VII video.
Yeah.
Where originally that was just going to be an announcement video, but before I turned off the camera, I decided to just run wacky with this idea I had, and it really panned out and it really transferred well to the screen. I know that was rushed, but it was still pretty good. And I said to myself, I really want to make videos like this.
Yeah, it was a great video. I really enjoyed the final scenes. You know, it was really enjoyable. You know, I've been watching so many videos. I've never had the, you know, ideas or anything to do those myself, but I always enjoy those types of mixtures between entertaining videos and informative videos as well. I think that's great, and that's why I enjoy, you know, shows like Angry Video Game Nerd a whole lot. You know, I've been rewatching those recently. They're funny and they're informative at the same time. You know, it's a really great video.
Exactly, and I have a history with drama in high school. It's something that I've loved doing apart from video games, but recently in the last couple of years, I haven't had too many opportunities behind the camera. There has been some times during film school where I got to stand in certain productions, and that was incredibly fun. But I haven't done anything like that in a long time until I did the Dragon Quest VII review. So I should say Dragon Quest VII impressions, but um, we might as well actually get into that. What's your thoughts on Dragon Quest VII coming out for the 3DS?
Yeah, I have to be honest and say that during 2012, especially earlier in the year, I went on a crazy Dragon Quest craze. I pretty much finished all the main games in the series, and Dragon Quest VII was one of those. I think it was around March or April that I spent about, you know, 2.5 weeks, you know, going to my job every day with a PSP. Now I kind of rushed through the game and I didn't do all the optional stuff, but it was an interesting game. It's not one of my favorite Dragon Quest games because I felt it had a lot of filler stuff, you know, with the optional quests of, you know, the town and such. But the story on its own was pretty nice. It looked very similar, of course, to the later DS remakes that we got. So I'm interested to see how it goes on a 3DS. I think 3DS will really need some more traditional JRPGs, especially released in the West, and I will of course pick it up. Not sure if I'm going to be playing through it immediately once again, but I will definitely pick it up and definitely give it a try, and maybe I'll just, you know, quit playing after 15 hours or so at first, but who knows? Maybe with the right schedule, you know, not a lot of other games at the moment, I'll definitely pick it up. That's for sure. If it comes out in English, of course. It's definitely one of those Dragon Quest games that hasn't been played by a lot of people and deserves some more attention.
Yeah, Dragon Quest VII, of course, never got released, in Europe and Australia, so hopefully they'll consider it. But I've always wanted to play Dragon Quest VII, hearing about its length and just a lot of things that interested me about the game, and the fact that it's going to be remade for the 3DS, which of course I always call the portable GameCube. It's really good. I love the graphics engine. They use the same graphics engine that they used in Dragon Quest Monsters Terry's Wonderland, which is really, really, really good. I'm really interested to see how they're going to translate a 100+ hour game using that heavy graphics engine for the 3DS, and whether they will use a bigger game card in terms of space.
I have to be honest and say that I really, really rushed through the game in about 44, 46 hours or something like that. But yeah, you can easily spend about 100 hours if you go really in depth. But it's pretty much the same with Dragon Quest IX as well. I pretty much finished the main story in about 30 hours or so, and then I didn't touch it again without ever exploring, doing any side quest whatsoever. So
That,
yeah.
that's the big thing I reckon Square Enix is going for. They want to replicate sales of Dragon Quest IX because that's one of the biggest selling games, of that time in Japan. The sales were crazy. I think about 6 million copies, and they really want to replicate that. Even though Level 5 is no longer, with them, they're too busy making other games. They want to do their best in replicating, what made Dragon Quest IX great.
Oh yeah, and I think it's also the natural evolution. With the DS, we saw Dragon Quest 4, 5, and 6 being remade by Arte Piazza, and now we have the same company, doing Dragon Quest 7. Who knows? Maybe this in the future also brings us a remake of the Erdrick trilogy, Lodo trilogy, the first three games, and
Yeah.
then of course the inevitable remake remastering of Dragon Quest 8.
Which is going to be interesting because initially my thought was they would never bring 7 to a Nintendo console because if memory serves me correct, Sony had some hand in releasing 7, and I definitely know Sony had a lot in hand to release 8 to most parts of the world. But with 7 going on the 3DS, I think Square Enix holds most of the rights. So if they are actually able to recreate 8, that'd be fantastic. But again, Dragon Quest 8 was made by Level 5. Whether they have stakes in the game, who knows? But I'd personally love to see Dragon Quest 8 on a portable device because it's my favorite game on the PS2. Anything to see it enhanced or just brought to another console and more people have the chance to play it, the better.
Oh yeah, it definitely. Like I said before, Dragon Quest 8 was one of those games that I bought back when it came out in 2008. I struggled with getting into it. I played the first opening hour like 6 times already, and then I just sat down earlier this year. After I finished Dragon Quest, 6 and 7, I sat down in Dragon Quest 8, and I really really enjoyed that game. It was about May or April, and I had a vacation of about 5 days. I think I played it for like 6 7 hours straight. I was raving on it about on Twitter. It is easily my favorite Dragon Quest game, and it deserves more playtime, and I would gladly replay it, as once again I pretty much rushed through that game just getting to the end alone and not focusing on the side quests. But the game looks really really great, and I really hope that it gets ported, as the whole controversial thing with Dragon Quest X, of course, is I think it will be a long time before we see a true Dragon Quest, sequel. So we got to make do with the remakes and the ports, because the spin-offs they haven't really caught on for me. I really don't like the spin-offs all that much. So I put all my chips on Dragon Quest 7 in 2013, and then see what's next. Maybe Dragon Quest 10, but I'm not too excited for that. We'll have to wait and see.
It's funny, Dragon Quest X was the first Dragon Quest game that didn't exceed week one expectations um, by a mile, and I think Square Enix felt that
Yeah.
really badly. And I think it's a foregone conclusion the next game will probably be offline and more focused on story. But I'm really surprised at this juncture that Square Enix hasn't announced an English version of the game. I mean,
Ah, I think they're waiting on, the Wii wasn't exactly a good idea because it was a dying system, at least in the West. Uh, Now that I bought a Wii U earlier this month, it's still one of the games that I would like to check out on the Wii U, but uh, yeah, I don't want
well,
to pay monthly fees for it. I really dislike that. Last time I played an MMORPG was World of Warcraft, and I I wanted to play Final Fantasy 14 as well, but it's not my cup of tea. But it all depends on the community. Like if I were, for instance, being able to play with you and a few other great YouTube fans, I would go crazy on that for sure. But not on my
I,
own. That's boring.
yeah, my last online game was Warhammer Online, and I'm a big fan of the Warhammer universe. But because it was an online game, I lasted 2 months. So even one of my favorite IPs online lasted 2 months. But I do like Dragon Quest more. And from what I've seen in the trailer, there's a lot of story sequences for an online game, which is very promising. So that could be annoying, but at the same time, it would give those JRPG fans that desire the story cutscenes the chance to view them. So I'll welcome them.
But one thing, so Dragon Quest X, it's not a turn-based RPG, right?
No, well, they try to replicate it, but it is real time. But there is some nuances, like if you fight a boss, it has that view where it shows the boss and saying the boss draws near, and then it goes back to the normal screen that's sort of done in real time.
Oh well, I like after the announcement, I really haven't delved into it, so I haven't really checked out some gameplay. I know it's out in Japan for a couple of months now, so I gotta check out some gameplay videos. But I think it would be very fun, to just have a 4 or 5 man party and then just go out, explore, do some quests, like with Borderlands 2 earlier this year, but then in that typical Dragon Quest style. But yeah. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. The Japanese Wii U version needs to be announced and made first, and then it needs to get ported to the West. So I think we're speaking about 2014 easily.
Yeah, we both called it, saying that it was easily going to be on the Wii U. But I knew that it wasn't going to be translated for the normal Wii. But the fact that I haven't even alluded to translating it for the Wii U, it's interesting. Because one thing I've got to say that's quite surprising, and I know the system just got released, but usually when a new system gets released in Japan, there's usually about 5 RPGs that's not released, but at least in development for the next year or two. And the thing that's weird about the Wii U is there is only 3 games, and I think 2 of them are eShop only. And Dragon Quest X stands as the only true JRPG for the system that's listed.
Yeah, you're right. There's like, yeah,
So
you're right.
the only thing I've got to say, the one that's unlisted is the one that not Monolith Soft is doing.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think it's in their best interest to generate some kind of hype, because one thing I should definitely say that the sales of both Xenoblade and The Last Story have exceeded all expectations. They've done extremely well in America and Europe, which is very good.
Yeah, for sure. It's the whole Operation Rainfall thing really paid off, and
Yeah,
yeah, I really hope that both Monolith Soft and Mistwalker, go out and create a new console or a real handheld JRPG next in the upcoming 2 years, and see that localized as well. I really look forward to that.
yeah. I think with game, I just want to say this about the Wii U very quickly. I don't own one. I have not yet played one, but the technology to continue your game on your gamepad, I can definitely say for any RPG player, that's worth its weight in gold. They don't need to do extra additions to the gameplay. Just having that feature alone is worth having a Wii U for. Anyone wants to consider making an RPG for the system, I think that's a big selling point, especially just someone who's very deep into playing their RPG.
Yeah, I think it's great as well. You could use the gamepad screen to do all the menu type stuff. And then, I have a great, battle display on the screen, for instance. Being able to just go out and play and grind on your gamepad, if you want that option, I think that's great as well. Of course, make use of the gamepad in some sort of innovative way. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see how it goes with the Wii U. It was really I bought one about 2 weeks ago. It was really a, crazy purchase. I really wasn't going to buy one. And then I just said, never bought a console at launch. Just do it, had some money left. So I have it now. I have Nintendo Land and New Super Mario Bros. U on it. Those are fun games, but it's going to take a while, until early next year to see some more games like Rayman. But especially in terms of JRPGs, that's going to take a long time. But we'll have to wait and see how it goes. I think every console is currently struggling with a getting off at a good start, but eventually it picks up, like the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation 3DS, and hopefully PlayStation Vita soon as well. So I have high hopes for the Wii U, and I think it will be a solid system once the games get announced.
Absolutely. One system that I'm become a very big advocate for is the PlayStation Vita. Of course, last month, or I should say the month before that, I finished East Salsetta, which was a very good game despite the ending, and I'll go into that on my channel, or another channel, I should say, in the future, because I'm actually doing a review with someone else, and we are yet to do that. But once we do, we've got lots to talk about with that game. And yeah, like I said, it was a big shock to me because I was enjoying the game for the most part, but I did not expect that kind of ending. And a lot of people kind of, just very quickly in a nutshell, a lot of people sort of complained with E7's ending, but I got to say, Salsetta's is worse in a certain different way.
Oh well, yeah, I'm a newcomer to East. I haven't really played the older versions. I only played Wanderers of East on the SNES. So yeah, I'm only the new school type of East player. No, I've played Origins, Chronicles, Oath in Valgana, and Seven. So I'm interested to play Salsetta of Trees. I really hope that it's going to get localized in 2013, like summer.
Yeah.
Because as of today, I'm actually owner of a PlayStation Vita. My PlayStation Vita got delivered today. Um, Not the most anticipated games on there. I'm waiting for a lot of Japanese games, like Ease, like Tales of Innocence are, Hearts are, some more Square stuff. But
Which
yeah,
I definitely say Square Enix has entered this age where they're playing it safe for the most part. I mean, most of the big announcements, of course, of the Final Fantasy name is just dragged on. Even the big announcement of bringing Final Fantasy X onto the Vita and the PS3 has kind of died down
yeah.
with nothing.
No,
And
it's really strange. They have had a really solid year. Final Fantasy Dimensions was great. Theater Rhythm Final Fantasy was great. Kingdom Hearts 3D was great. Final Fantasy 13 2. I loved it when I was playing it, but now with the announcement of Lightning Returns Final Fantasy, I am still not very happy with that. But let's not get into the horrible stuff, man. The World Ends With You countdown stuff just for solo remix, which I have to be honest, I replayed the entire game and I loved it, but
you'd
the
rather
hype.
a sequel.
Uh, oh, by the way, did you hear the news that there is currently another Square Enix countdown timer available, and it's showing these planets, showing star, galaxy on screen, and it's supposedly going to be the new Star Ocean game, which I never anticipated in a million years.
Um, yeah, given Tri-Ace's bouncing between all the companies, I think they bounced right from Square Enix for a reason. And for them to bounce back would be very interesting because they went from Square Enix after Star Ocean 4, and then they bounced to Sega with Resonance of Fate, and I like to forget that ever happened. And then they bounced to
Uh,
Konami of all people.
yeah,
Uh,
the last thing that of course they helped out with 13.2, Final Fantasy 13.2, but now
yeah,
recently they announced that they're working on the upgraded version of Frontier Gate, which I only know the title. I have no idea what type of game it is. Resonance of Fate, I just gave it away to my nephew. I just never started it. So, but yeah, I am still playing through the Star Ocean games. I finished. I still have Star Ocean 2 and Star Ocean 4 to play. So maybe we'll have to see. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. I am I'm guessing that this announcement, which is at the moment going to be ending in like 2 or 3 days, is going to be like Star Ocean 1 on the iOS and Android.
Oh man, wouldn't that would be as bad. I wouldn't say it'd be as bad as Sega pulling videos, but that would be cutting their fans short. I can definitely say that seriously would.
Like,
And
I got my hopes up so much with the World Ends With You countdown trailer, and then all this stuff, remixed songs. I really got my hopes up. And then I believe it was about 24 hours in advance, the news got leaked that it was just going to be an iPad remake. That was probably one of the worst moments in video gaming, last year for me. That really, really sucked.
yeah, I can totally understand that. I mean, the iPhone has become a big market, and whilst the smaller guys are taking advantage of it, the bigger companies, I don't think grasp it. I think one of the biggest pulls to get an iPhone. Oh, speaking of which, last week I actually got my first iPhone on
Nice.
my plan, and of course, so I could play all these unique iPhone games, and of course, the main reason is that Falcom has dipped their waters into iOS before with their version of Sorcerian, so I wanted to keep my options open, but
Yeah.
mostly the games that Square Enix made, they make some original stuff, especially with Media Vision and Chaos Rings. For you don't know, Media Vision are the team that's behind Wild Arms, so that's interesting. I may give Chaos Rings a go. But in terms of re-releasing most of these games, like re-releasing Secret of Mana was really good because that game hasn't really had much life after the Super Nintendo one. It got ported to Virtual Console, but other than that, there wasn't really any remakes or anything. So putting Secret of Mana on the iOS was a good idea. Putting Chrono Trigger on there, on the other hand, that's been everywhere.
Yeah, but that's I understand it. It's one of the best ones, but let's take a look. We released a Final Fantasy 1, Final Fantasy 2, Final Fantasy Tactics. The recent news is yesterday they announced that they're going to be porting one of the best ones, Final Fantasy 4, to the iOS.
Yeah, they've already ported Final Fantasy III, and it's pretty much the DS game. And this
Yeah,
version of Final Fantasy IV will be the DS version. So
precisely, and that's what sucks the most about it.
just
They
porting.
have complete collection on the PSP. They released Dimensions this year. People got used to that style, and then they're going to be releasing the horrible. Now, I'm not saying it's horrible, but yeah, I really did not like the 3D style Matrix Software Final Fantasy IV version. That's also why Final Fantasy III still is my least favorite one because I had to play it in the 3D style. Maybe somewhere in the future I'll be able to play the 2D style.
I really disliked it in 3. I kind of accepted it with 4, but there were so many great things about 4 that the graphics were kind of second fiddle. But just to simply do a straight port, maybe just touch up the graphics a little bit, it's not worth it when you have most of the people that have an iPhone most likely probably have this on their DSs already.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not saying that there isn't a huge market of people that wouldn't download it, but I would definitely say gamers like ourselves get an iPhone not only to use it as a phone, but to play unique experiences or games that haven't seen the light of day for a very long time. Like, here's an example. Who in God's name would imagine that a Sega CD game will get ported to the iOS like
I didn't
really
even know about this.
2 decades later? I totally forgot about it until I was talking to one of my friends the other day, and I totally remembered that it's on the iOS and it's a Sega CD game, and I'm seriously thinking about playing it.
Oh
But
yeah. I have to be honest, the iOS is really great. Like I said, Final Fantasy Dimensions, I haven't finished it yet, but it was a great throwback. I played Steins Gate on it, a visual novel. That's one of my favorite experiences in 2012. There's a slew of cave shmups and other shmups out there. But yeah, it is a very solid console to play on, even if you have, say, an iPad, which even makes it more awesome. Um, I sadly bought an Android tablet earlier this year, which haven't seen a lot of gaming on happening yet. But yeah, iOS, it's a nifty little system. But yeah.
I definitely can definitely say, just quickly going back to the Vita, just little story I want to talk about is I got to fiddle around finally with PlayStation 1 software. I downloaded Legend of Dragoon onto the system.
Ooh.
And one thing I think is extremely fantastic is you can use the touchpad to increase or decrease the resolution of the game, to your desired effect, which is really awesome. They do have some optimal settings so they can stretch it out to the right appropriate amount. I mean, it can give you the option to stretch everything out, which I can definitely say looks horrible. If you actually stretch it to the normal resolution with the standard definition, the game actually looks fantastic on the Vita. Legend Dragoon is a game I have owned for many years, but for some odd reason, playing it on my PS2 and playing it on my PS3, it just did not look that good.
Hmm.
But playing it on my Vita as a downloadable copy from PSN, it looks fantastic. There is hardly any flaws, and I'm looking forward to using my Vita to play more PS1 classic games.
I have to be honest. I'm getting through my entire backlog, and especially JRPGs. But Legend of Dragoon is still one of those. I finished disc one back in the day, like 10 years ago, maybe even 13 years ago. But yeah, I originally wanted to play it on a PSP, but maybe I gotta check it out on a PlayStation Vita. It's definitely one of those RPGs that I'm going to be playing next year, and trying to get that in the best version as possible.
The thing about the Vita that hasn't worked out right yet is the reason I was able to do this without any hassle for Legend of Dragoon is the main problem with PSN is some games can be transferred through the content manager from the PS3 to the Vita. Legend of Dragoon is one of them, and a couple other RPGs. However, one of the games I desperately want to play is Chrono Cross. And would you know it? It's not allowed to be downloaded through the cable. You actually have to get a Wi-Fi connection to download Chrono Cross. And I'm going to say this now. I've attempted 3 times, and it's failed every time using local Wi-Fi. So
That's good to know.
the last attempt got to 70%, but that was after waiting for 2 hours, and I had to catch a ride. So next time I have to go to the library and have to sit there for 3 hours reading a book while I use the Wi-Fi to download stuff onto my iPhone and to my Vita. I know people say, "Why don't you have, Wi-Fi?" And it's like, I just find cable more easy. But I know it's slowly heading to that direction. But I think companies should be a bit more loose with trying to cater to people of all walks of life, not just forcing everyone to use Wi-Fi. They should give people that option to connect to whatever device they can through cable. It's just a thought of mine.
Yeah, well, I've been upgraded myself for the last 2 years to everything Wi-Fi. I didn't want to bother with cables anymore. I see the same thing happening now with the Wii U, which is very interesting. Basically, when you buy the Wii U, the only thing you get is a HDMI cable. No other cables are in the box, like component or composite. They just, you can buy them separately, but they're not in a box anymore. So slowly but surely, we're upgrading to this whole new, technology standard like Wi-Fi and HDMI. Without, and then, that hurts the slow adopters. That sucks. But yeah.
No, I totally understand with that. But moving back onto another tangent, big news, I gotta say, filled my heart with joy just. Good old Falcom has announced that Trails in the Sky SC is coming to the PS3.
Yes.
All I can say, that you can go, good sir.
Yes. Yeah, of course. The first one was already announced like a couple of months ago, the HD Kai version. But now, second chapter, we have hope.
We have hope, but the ball is in school in Exceed's corner. I definitely would say out of every option, which is really funny because I remember when Aria Games announced that they wanted to make a portable version of Trails of the Sky for iPhone. I definitely would say that was one of the reasons behind buying an iPhone. And now I've got Steam and I have a PS3. I have front row seats to any way the games could be translated in English. But if I had to be perfectly honest, I'd want it for the PS3. You know, just it's
Yeah.
going to be better graphically touched up. The music's going to have better quality, and it's going to be a JRPG experience like none other on your TV, like the good old days. To those people that enjoyed playing RPGs in the 16-bit to 32-bit era, will feel right at home playing something like Trails in the Sky on their TV, and I just think it's the best option.
Yeah, definitely. Seeing the HD remaster, that's great as well. There were some rumors of Steam, which I've only used for East Origin so far. Um, I am really interested to see what Exceed is going to be doing. The last story was supposedly their most successful title, so hopefully they're still, they haven't done anything or announced anything Falcom related since they did East Origin. But I really hope that we'll see we see the PlayStation 3 version being ported to the PlayStation 3 in English. It should be relatively easy, just copy paste the script in there and be done with it. I hope it's that easy, and then complete the translation of second chapter, which I believe is about halfway done. The last thing they commented on the forums. So let's hope. Let's hope to see anything Falcom related in English in 2013, like Ease 4 would be very, very nice, or one of these upgrades. And I basically want to have Exceed say, yes, we are going to be re-releasing Trails in the Sky 1, but also on the same platform we're going to be doing Trails in the Sky 2, and then they'll win me back. I just briefly looked over it. They have released Wave the Samurai 4 as their only PlayStation 3 game, so they do have PlayStation 3 connections, licenses, whatever. So that's not a reason to hold them back from doing this. We need more Trails in the Sky. We just do.
Yeah, and the whole major selling point, of course, is the PS3 is going into overtime. For all of you that don't know, the every 6 years was usually the mark for Sony to have their new console out, and this is 2012. So by that theory, we should have PS4 already. But alas, because of the global financial crisis and this generation having some hiccups, they've had to go into overtime till 2015 with support for the PS3. So that gives them 3 years to bring out SC. And even if the third doesn't get released, at least we get SC. That's what I'm hoping for. But it'd be awesome to get all the games together.
Yeah, that's yeah. I yeah. I haven't even thought about the third. That should of course come natural. I know that the most beloved game in the original, Trails in the Sky trilogy is SC. Um, but we'll have to wait and see how that goes. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but
Yeah.
let's just hope that inevitably it gets ported. I still have really high hopes because now that I have a PlayStation Vita, I saw that you can play a lot of PSP games on it. So all it needs is a digital download, and I can play all these games on the PlayStation Vita. So they should just re-release Trails in the Sky on PSP as well, and then do SC on the PlayStation and Network Store, so you can enjoy it on PSP and PlayStation Vita. That is another direction that they can take, or just do both. We'll have to wait and see how it goes, but I believe that there's a new CEO at Exceed, so hopefully he loves some Falcom. Um,
Wasn't he ex Atlas? The new.
I believe so. Yeah, basically they swapped some things around, but the current CEO from Exceed was at one point also the CEO from Atlas USA, who left in about 2011 or 2010, and now he moved into the position of Exceed. So, and I still feel that Atlas is still one of those English, those Japanese game publishers who still understand their fan base and have not been disappointing a lot of their fan base recently. Let's not
Yes.
talk about Persona 4 Arena. That's a whole different thing. But
Well, I think with in terms of the video game scandals of 2012, at least they had the good decency to basically comment the next day with a statement
yeah,
reassuring everyone. And of course, the reassurance just recently paid off with Persona 4 The Golden being completely region free. My copy is still in transit. I can't wait to play play Persona 4 again with completely new features. But really good of Atlas to basically not adhere to region locking, which is the worst practice ever in the gaming industry.
yeah. Actually, there's been some rumors flying around that they were not alone pressured by Atlas Japan for the sales, but they were also pressured the by Zen United and P-Cube, who are handling the European localization. They were actually pressured by them as well to make it region locked so that they would improve the European sales. Now, if that's true, understandable. I can see them pushing more to Europe, but this entire thing fully blames on the horrible, horrible P Cube who've been delaying this and haven't been uncooperative. I have them on Facebook. They are posting all these crappy, interesting Persona 4 content messages, but nothing substantial on the game. And that's really, really ridiculous. They better bring it out next year, quarter 1. Very nice limited edition with a lot of extra goodies thrown in there to make up for this entire mess. Because whenever we get the game, nobody will be playing it except us Europeans. So the entire online support will be gone. Of course, I will be playing it for the single player and enjoying it myself, but still, probably together with The World Ends With You countdown timer, the worst JRPG story in 2012.
Very, very, very quickly, I can top that. And
Oh,
as much as this would be, actually, by the time this is released, you probably would have seen this video on the channel. That would easily be the worst news of 2012 goes to my lifelong favorites, well, maybe not so favorites anymore at Sega, completely attacking the Shining Force community
oh,
and various other YouTubers taking down their videos left, right, and center like candy. This is disgusting.
oh yeah. I'm sorry. Uh, I'm not the biggest Sega fan. I enjoy their games, but whenever I was hearing this news, this is by far the most horrible thing. We're talking about, To World's End With You sequel. The game is out there. Nothing's wrong with that. We're hoping for Persona 4. It will be released. We're just getting excited too soon. But this Sega stuff, man. Oh, that's who in their right mind. Nah, it's just, go ahead and explain it if you want to. But
Well,
this is horrible.
I'll probably explain a bit more in my video, but I do just a very brief backstory. Of course, I might have already mentioned before, the original Shining Force series is made by Camelot. Before they became Camelot Software, they were a subsidiary of Sega called Sonic Software Planning, and they left Sega in about 1998, 1999 after Sega's refusal to bring out all the scenarios worldwide because of the Sega Saturn's failure. Now, of course, Camelot went from Sega and got snatched up by Nintendo and then ultimately created the Golden Sun series, which is more of a happy ending to them. However, from the rumor mill, from what I've heard, the current producer of the Shining series someone has quoted that he has something against the older games and believes his games are better. Now, the other thing is that he wanted to have full range to promote the new game Shining Arc on YouTube and other places. So, in order for people to basically type in the word Shining and Arc, instead of it coming up Shining the Holy Arc, it will come up Shining Arc. So, what does he do to, make this happen? Take down people's videos of Shining the Holy Arc, but then went even further, take down Shining videos in general. And I know a couple of people, including Benzo8686 and various other people I know from Shining Force Central, has had their videos blocked, flagged, and some of the channels has even been completely taken down. And man, it's just sad. In an instant.
It is absolutely ridiculous to see, people with their love for a specific company or a game series to be, treated this way. It's ridiculous. Sure, we are still facing all these issues with, fair use and, copyright stuff, but don't, yeah, it's ridiculous. It's somebody's making a really bad decision at Sega. It's really hard for to see them bounce back from this horrible treatment. I think the best thing that they need to do is come out with a public statement stating why, firing this particular individual if it was an individual, reverting everything back, make up for it, and then make up for it by releasing Valkyria Chronicles 3 on PSN, and then we will all be happy.
Yeah, I think that's actually a good alternative. Because, of course, I wasn't too happy when Valkyrie Chronicles 3 was, they kind of canned it in the West, which was not good. And I was then willing to at least play the Valkyrie Chronicles 3 and all the Shining games. But after this debacle, I don't think I'll be touching a Sega product for a very, very long time. Unless it's Shenmue 1 and 2, because I promised myself I'd play that a long time ago. But even that might be an empty promise, who knows. But yeah, I think Sega needs to do something big to reassure their fans, because when it comes down to it, is promotion of one game in one country worth all this bad press worldwide? Yeah.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I'm thinking, and I haven't really been delving into this problem. It is Sega. It's a big company, and we're right in the middle of the YouTube community. We see, good friends of ours getting hit, but I don't know how widely publicized all this stuff has been outside of YouTube.
I've seen it on a couple of websites like screwattack.com, Destruct. There is a few websites, and there's slowly videos being rolled out in YouTube from outside the Shining Force community, and of course, I can't keep quiet, and of course, by the time this video's up, my Shining Force video would have been up. So, because I'm going to upload it directly after this recording, so hopefully it'll go well, and you'll be able to see me. My first negative rant, and I don't usually like doing negative rants, but this is probably one of the first times where it's justified. So
it must be done.
Yeah.
I think this is a really risky situation for several YouTubers out there, but especially the bigger ones like Benzo and Epic Console Gamer. I know they've taken their videos down, and I know this is something you don't want to risk. I wouldn't do it as well, but maybe a good idea would have been to just get their entire accounts being taken down by Sega. That would have gone on all gen gamers. Then it would have reached a higher appeal, wide outcry. Some of the favorite, gaming YouTube channels would have been closed by all this stuff. Then it would have been, hyped up and boiled down, and people, it would have gotten even more angrier. But yeah, it's a very risky proposition to risk your entire channel, and that shouldn't even happen, man. It's Sega really messed up on this situation, and maybe it's just one individual who got power hungry, or maybe it's just Sega losing their minds.
Just to give everyone some clear thoughts, some reassurance. So most people doing these videos and citing what's happening about Sega, we're not showing any Sega footage, any licensed material. Sega may own that stuff, but they don't own us. So if they
Precisely.
did file a flag, you can easily do a counterclaim with no issues.
Yeah, that's true.
So that that's our safety zone. And when I thought about that, I thought I can't be quiet. You know, look, the only thing you'll see is I hold up a few Sega products, but I bought that with my money, and I'm not showing any footage of those games. It would be absurd to flag someone's video just for even showing a game. And if it got to that point, then nothing would be sacred on YouTube, and I don't think anyone would want to go that far. You
No,
know,
no, no. That's we'll wait and see how it goes. So we'll have to wait and see how more channels get attacked in the upcoming weeks. And yeah, it's a really really depressing situation, and I look forward to hearing your full comments on it as well when you've uploaded the video. And
yeah, I think this is good to get it out here right now because I can talk about it in a more mature, um, proper sense. Because my video is very rant worthy, and I must admit, it's it's not as well thought as I would be, but it's me letting everything out would be the best way to say.
it's not a problem, man. Sometimes you just gotta get it all off your chest. It's a ridiculous situation, and yeah, something
Yeah,
must be fixed here. That's
yeah. And even if it doesn't get fixed, at least it's off the table in terms of me. And as I say in my video, if it doesn't get fixed, I mean, I'm just going to focus my attention on other RPGs. That's the best thing about this hobby is there's so many out there. If one company goes batshit crazy, you can focus your attention on something else. But when it comes down to it, if Sega makes a good game, I probably would give it a go. But if I don't like the company, then there's no way I'm going to bend over backwards to support it, you know. And I pretty much said that in my video that I think Sega wants all their consumers to play the games in silent and not even have an opinion, which is really terrible. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. It's a really regrettable situation, and yeah, let's hopefully it will resolve itself in a positive way without erupting into this even bigger scandal that it already is.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, going off track a little bit with a lot of news announcements, but let's see. Should we talk about some of the recent JRPGs that we've been playing?
Yeah, I'll begin. I've been on a slew lately of trying to get back into a certain series. The one I've had the most trouble with is Tales of the Abyss, and I haven't gone further with that game because I just want to say this very quickly. I think Tales of the Abyss has one of the worst world maps ever in an RPG. It's horrid. It really is. And it's very confusing. And because I haven't played it in months, I got very lost, very easy, and I made no progress, so I put it down. I then proceeded to pick up Dragon Quest VI, and it took me 5 minutes to get back into the swing of things. It, it never, it never had a break. I went back into the story and understood where I was, what I did, and it was fantastic. So I've pretty much been playing a lot of Dragon Quest VI. I've already clocked about 50 hours into the game. I'm pretty much nearing close to the end of the game. I'm enjoying it. It's the final of the Zenithia trilogy on the DS, and it's been a fantastic journey ever since I've played Dragon Quest IV. And it's been a worthwhile journey. I'm really enjoying Dragon Quest VI. I will admit the story is not as good as 4 and 5. It's decent. But I think story is not the major strength of Dragon Quest VI. The major strength is the fact that the game takes place in two different worlds, and there's a lot of content in both those worlds. So I can definitely say there's just a lot of dungeons, mini dungeons, and all that. So if you're a fan of Dragon Quest purely for gameplay, then you'll love Dragon Quest 6. I definitely would say Dragon Quest 9 beats it in terms of content, and I have a feeling Dragon Quest 7 will. But in terms of comparing it to the other Dragon Quest games that comes before it, it was up until before that point the longest Dragon Quest game, and I can definitely see why. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I've been playing Dragon Quest 6 early in the year as well. I came off the fantastic Dragon Quest 5, already finished 4 back in 2010. Um, I felt it was a very good game and it was a great end to the indeed the Cenithian trilogy, but there were some elements missing somehow. I felt, and I didn't really bother again with the side stuff. Just wanted to finish it as fast as possible. I like the two different worlds split together, but somehow the side characters, the other playable characters, weren't as enjoyable as 4 and 5. And while a good game, it is not of the greatness that was 4 and 5, and of course 8.
comparing it to the other Zenithian trilogy,
Yeah, of course.
it's very hard to come off something like Dragon Quest V, which is the most story-driven of the Dragon Quest games, and then something I would definitely say is the polar opposite. Even though there's a lot of content in 5, 6 more focused on more content and less story. Even though there is a story, don't think we're saying the story's bad. It's just we like 4 and 5 better.
Yeah, it's like when I rate 4 and 5 like a 9 out of 10, I rate Dragon Quest 6 and 8.
Yeah, that's the best we can pretty much say. But other than that, I see the thing about 2012 was this is the one year that I didn't play as many RPGs that I usually did. I had a huge break, actually playing a lot of Sega games, incidentally. So the irony there is just enormous. But been playing other different types of games, adventure games, fighting games, all sorts of things. But I've been playing the odd RPG or two. And it wasn't until November that I finally got back into the swing of playing a few RPGs. And the other thing is that I've been actually recently been very lucky finding a lot of new RPGs for cheap. One thing that really surprised me is Nippon Ichi's European division has reprinted a lot of their games that were very hard to find, like Trinity Universe. I had a lot of trouble trying to find that game, and recently that game was found in a bargain bin in my local electronics store for next to nothing, which was very, very happy with that. There was also Trinity Souls of Zilol was also very cheap, and I've been recently playing that on and off, which is basically, if you don't know, Trinity Souls of Zilol is based on the Koei's big RPG franchise, Zilol, which was originally a PlayStation RPG. Now, this game was made by Omega Force, which is their division that makes all the Dynasty Warriors or just Muso games in general, for which I'm a big fan. I've played all Dynasty Warriors games since Dynasty Warriors 3. And Samurai Warriors remains one of my favorite games of all time. I've clocked about 250 hours on that game. And recently I've been playing a lot of Dynasty Warriors Gundam 3 because I'm a huge Gundam fan as well as a Dynasty Warriors fan. It's a dream come true to play that game. But to see the group tackle an RPG is very interesting because they're used to making games where there's like hundreds of troops on the screen, focused on wide battlefield environments, and it was very interesting to see them a more quest-focused orientated game where they're fighting in very narrow corners. But the gameplay is very reminiscent of Dynasty Warriors, but a more slower capacity and more focused, of course, with RPG elements, with normal stats and leveling up. And the item finding is very random. You'll find items are randomly generated. The dungeons are not randomly generated. They stay the same, but the items you find every time you go into the areas is random. So there is that element of going back to old areas just in case you may or may not get a good item. And it's very quest orientated. Like you have to go to a guild to accept a quest. You'll be doing a lot of that because that's the main focus of the game. But it is leading to a main story with the main character's plight. And just very quick backstory was the main character is a half elf. He basically is of noble lineage, and basically there's a prophecy that's foretold that the main character will kill his grandfather, who's a tyrannical emperor. And basically the emperor wants to kill him before that happens. And the character goes into hiding and pretty much spends his entire life in the Colosseum training for the day that he'll get his vengeance against, his grandfather for killing most of his family and all that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how the story ends up. And it's really surprisingly a very interesting story for a Koei game. Not saying that Koei doesn't make interesting stories, but Koei's biggest trade in the gaming industry is doing games based on history. So to see them do a fictional game is very interesting indeed. They definitely draw from a lot of European history and mythology when creating this world. One thing I definitely got to say stands out more than any other game on the PS2 is its art style. Now, we talk about the various different styles of visuals, like you got your normal polygons and you got cell shading. Well, Trinity Souls of Zilol does something different, where the creators want to go for a game that looks like an oil painting, and it does. It looks fantastic. You can see the very little imperfections with paint and everything on the character, and the screen has this mosaic look to it that looks like you're playing a painting, and it's fantastic. I love it. And whilst people may not see it at first if you watch trailers, you have to watch it on a high resolution on a HD TV to see what I'm talking about. And the truth is, the one thing the game has going against it is because of the quest system, it is extremely repetitive. But in my mind, it's a good kind of repetition, and it's a good game if you want to play a quest or two a day and get your fill out of it. And I'm really surprised because I didn't think the game would be, I didn't have too many high hopes for the game, but I'm very surprised. It's really good.
I've of course heard of this once again ridiculous title again. I didn't even know how you pronounce the title. It's a really really weird title, but I remember this being announced and hearing probably a lot of mediocre recommendations, so I skipped out on it. Who knows? Maybe I gotta look into it. I really haven't seen anything in terms of gameplay, and I've never been a huge Koei Dynasty Warriors fan. Although the games do have some appeal to me, I just never found myself to play them. It's definitely one to keep on my mind, especially if I can run into it. I'll do some research after we end this recording. Sounds
well,
good.
I definitely say, paying full price around 60 Australian dollars, I think wouldn't be worth it. It went down sale to about 25 Australian dollars, which I thought was really cheap. The game was becoming a big rarity here in Australia. I thought it was the good time, and I've always said, if you can buy the game for the right price, you'll enjoy it more. There's nothing worse than playing a bad game that you overpaid for.
Yeah.
So it's definitely one of those games I definitely suggest trying to get it on the cheap.
All right, I'll take a look into it, see if it's my cup of tea, and if I can find it for the right price, I'll take a look into it.
Yeah. Other than that, there isn't really too much in terms. I mean, I did play a lot of. I've already mentioned Valkyrie Chronicles 2 in a previous episode, but I have not made any progress, and after the debacle, I don't think there will be any progress for a very long time. So that's just going to be shelved. But other than that, pretty much I've been focusing on just those games I've mentioned.
All right. Yeah, I'm kind of running into a similar situation. Like, from the start of the year all the way until September, I was pretty much playing RPGs non-stop, usually like 2 or 3 at a time. And ever since September, I kind of took it more slow. There were some other, while great Japanese games, not really JRPGs, like Professor Layton 5, and currently wrapping up on Zero Escape, Virtue's Last Reward, which is a fantastic visual novel. Of course, some more Western releases that I've been playing, like Black Ops and Wii U we have now. Um, so yeah, what RPGs have I been playing recently? We had, of course, Final Fantasy Dimensions, which I still got to get back to. Tales of Graces F, I got to get back into that one as well. I've been playing Fire Emblem Path of Radiance ever since the start of November. Right before I went on holiday, I finally picked up a copy of that. It's my second Fire Emblem game that I'm playing. I think I'm about midway through. Um, haven't gone back to it for the last 2 weeks or so because I was too busy, redecorating the game room and then Virtue's Last Reward, which I've clocked in about 30 hours in the last 8 days. So I'll probably get back to Path of Radiance. I want to complete that, especially during my holiday break, which is in 2 weeks. I have about 3 weeks off, so definitely going to be delving into Path of Radiance again. It is a really, really great Fire Emblem game. The only one that I played before it was Shadow Dragon on the DS, but this one is really good. I really enjoyed Ike's story so far. Gameplay is top notch, so I look forward to playing it some more. Let's see. That's Fire Emblem. It even made me go out and import all these crazy Fire Emblem games. Like, I pretty much ordered all the Fire Emblem games in existence except for 3, which is of course the upcoming Fire Emblem Awakening, Fire Emblem 5, Thracia 776, and Fire Emblem 6, Fui no Tsurugi. Those are the expensive ones.
Yeah, it translates to the Seal Sword, and we totally forgot to quickly mention the translation that I was alluding to at the start of the podcast was that Mystery of the Emblem on the DS has gone a fully 3-point version of the fan translation, and it looks perfect. It looked like the team at Nintendo did it. It just looks amazing.
I knew you were talking about it as well. I've been following the Fire Emblem translation team. I had the website bookmarked, heroesofshadow.net. Went there pretty much every week. It is based that I'm still playing Path of Radiance at the moment, but once I finish that up, I'll go immediately into Fire Emblem 12, New Mystery of the Emblem. Like I said, I love Shadow Dragon, and New Mystery of the Emblem is a direct continuation of Marth's story, remake of the third Fire Emblem game, so I am really, really excited to play that one. It's definitely my goal to beat Path of Radiance, Radiant Dawn, New Mystery of the Emblem before Awakening comes out, which I gotta get on it. Fire Emblem Awakening has been announced for April 2013 in Europe. Lucky bastards in the United States and North America get it in February.
It's so weird because it was alluded to that we were going to get it first before North America, and then they changed their minds halfway through production, which is it's so unnecessary due to friggin' region locking. I mean, oh man.
I don't know if the games are going to get additional languages like they used to do, like all the 5 language stuff. But in all honesty, it sucks that we get a 2-month gap between the United States. But originally this game was announced for Q2, which with April it technically is, but I was thinking like June or something. So, and we already have some pretty nice games coming up in early 2013. So it's not a real rush. Of course, it is one of my most highly anticipated games. But for the 4 months, it gives me some time to finish some more Fire Emblem games. So.
Yeah, I mean, I just very quickly, Path of the Radiance is a fantastic game. Definitely one of the best on the GameCube. I love the characters, I love the Grail Mercenaries, and all the characters in the world of Path of Radiance, and of course Radiant Dawn. I have to keep saying this. Radiant Dawn is the most difficult of the Fire Emblem games, next to, from what I've heard from our friend Taylor, Fractica 776. They're both equally the hardest Fire Emblem games of the lot. I nearly completely lost my mind playing Radiant Dawn, so it'll be very interesting to see how you fare.
I heard the same. Yeah, it's Path of Radiance so far. It isn't really difficult as usual. I'm the type of perfectionist. I don't want to lose anybody. I want to recruit everybody. There were some Path of Radiance maps where I just fine and dandy finished the entire map, got right up to the boss, and made a stupid mistake, and then the boss killed one of my characters and I had to replay the entire map. Oh, that sucks. But I am kind of dreading Radiant Dawn, so I'll probably play New Mystery of the Emblem first, and after that Radiant Dawn.
Yeah, that's a good idea. As I said before, finishing Radiant Dawn and going straight to Shadow Dragon, it was just apples and oranges. It was just crazy. Playing the
Yeah.
hardest Fire Emblem game, pretty much playing one of the easiest. So,
Looking back on Shadow Dragon, with the save points you had on the map, I remember playing it that way. Just I took some risks, see, wait another turn and then use the save point just to be sure, and then you could reload that save point, whenever you want to. Yeah, Shadow Dragon was not really that difficult.
I mean, the only times I really lost in that game when I got too greedy in the Colosseum.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time in the Colosseum leveling everybody up. I got greedy as well on a couple of tries. So yeah, but whenever I leveled up a lot of my characters, I never struggled until the end of the game.
Yeah, it's definitely a trap to get into, but yeah, hopefully, all goes well with the rest of the Fire Emblem games. I got to find some method to play the fan translation, but first I actually want to get a copy of Mystery of the New Emblem.
Oh, oh,
Not the job and money
be
being slow. There's only so much I can buy every month.
be
You know,
afraid.
yeah.
I bought a copy of New Mystery of the Emblem. It's a used copy. It cost me on eBay, cost me 50 euros. And the stupid seller, he didn't put it as gift, so I had to pay an additional 20 euro. So New Mystery of the Emblem, a used DS game, cost me 70 euros.
Jeez,
Why, thank you. I could have bought Awakening, imported Awakening for the same price.
that's just crazy. Oh, man. I, I,
Yeah.
would, I, would, I would imagine that something like that would be plentiful, but from what I've heard, Mystery of the Emblem was quite kind of a rarity compared to Awakening, which I heard has a lot of copies, and I heard is done particularly well in Japan, simply because there isn't really any strategy RPGs aside from Shimigami Tensei, Devil Survivor, Overclocked. So,
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Let's see. Yeah, the other Fire Emblem games didn't cost me all that much. I found inboxed copies of the GBA games for about 20 euros. Radiant Dawn cost me about 17 euros on Amazon. Path of Radiance. Luckily, I have a modded Wii, so I picked up my copy from North America. It cost me about 35 euros. And then some retro stuff. There's this great eBay store called Hit Japan where I order all my Super Famicom and Famicom games. Those cost me maybe like 5 to 10 euros a piece. So Thracia 776 and Sealed Sword, they are the same type of 50, 60 and upwards. Let's not get into the Fire Emblem Thracia 776 limited edition, which goes for about $300 to $400. Lucky Taylor.
yeah, he found it for a good price. Very, very lucky indeed, good sir, because that's probably one of the best special editions ever known to man. Like, that literally is a treasure chest.
Yeah, together with, of course, the Japanese branded Fire Emblem Awakening 3DS, um, which of course is region locked, so it's no point in importing it. But those are probably the two most expensive, Fire Emblem games released.
but it is very handy to have a region. If you're gonna play a different region, and you want to collect different variations of the handheld, then it may be good to have a Japanese one just in case you do want to play a Japanese 3DS game. And there have been times that I've wanted to do it, especially with, I have this gut feeling that Project Cross Zone may not make it, especially with all this, with many controversies surrounding both Capcom and Sega. The game would probably lose appeal very quickly, I definitely say. And I've heard rumors that no one's had any thought. Well, I've heard the story on different side that some companies want to take a chance on it, and some that they don't want to release it in English. So who knows? But I just got this feeling that it'd probably be Japanese only.
Yeah, that then the same goes, of course, for a lot of potential North American 3DS RPGs like uh, Soul Hackers that might get translated and released in North America. Like Etrian Odyssey 4 is going to be out in North America, but nothing announced in Europe. We do have Ghostlight, but Ghostlight has been working on Devil Survivor Overclocked and Devil Survivor 2, which has been delayed until 2013. So, yeah.
That's the thing. I think Ghostlight has put too much on their plate, and they can't keep up with Atlas.
Yeah, that's yeah, it's very regrettable to see. I do hope, and this is wrong, but I do hope that there will be a way to play North American 3DS games on my current 3DS, but nothing so far.
No, I can't remember who it is. I think there might be another company that's going to be handling. One of the things that really worried me was Coda Princess, that I was
Oh
worried that it
yeah.
was going to stay in America, but it is going to be released in Europe, and I'm really excited for that.
Really? Is that been announced for Europe?
Yes, I can't remember who's taking care of it. I don't think it's Ghostlight. I think it's someone else.
Gotta delve into this one. I wasn't 100% sure on the game. Uh, let's see. Let's see. I wasn't 100% sure on the game myself, but I love Guardian Heroes, so if it's coming out in Europe, I'll get it.
Most definitely.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I'm reading some article on Operation Rainfall. Apparently, Agatsuma Entertainment released a statement. We are planning to release the title in the European territory, but it's taking some time to close the deal, so please be patient. This
uh,
was in October.
yeah, so they just have to close the deal, fully before they can release it. Because I think it's one of those niche exclusive game that would be right up our alley to put in our 3DS collections, and I definitely want to play it.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the beat 'em up genre. I'm a huge fan of Guardian Heroes. Yeah, I didn't get my hopes up, but this is looking very good. It's definitely one of those games that will be that I would easily pick up and play.
Yeah, well, most definitely, if that comes out, I'll be getting that Fire Emblem Awakening, and if Square Enix can get Dragon Quest. Well, the thing is, it's not just Dragon Quest 7, but also Terry's Wonderland. That'd be fantastic.
There's one more. Bravery Default.
Yeah, they recently had a trademark, and it wasn't
Yeah.
Bravery Default, but
Allthebravest.com.
yeah, that's right. And it's most likely going to be that, but we'll see what happens. Most Square Enix games makes it worldwide, and they've entered this point where they do have to shift their focus on other devices. I mean, they've been tiptoeing with games like Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance and Theater Rhythm and Heroes of Ruin, but I think they have to probably consider the 3DS as a major platform for 2013. So
Yeah.
hopefully they put more money behind it. Um,
Yeah, Bravery Default looks really fantastic. I would definitely buy that day one as well. Um, yeah. I'm happy with Square's output of Theater Rhythm and Kingdom Hearts. So onwards to the next one.
Yeah.
So yeah, the 3DS has been seeing great support. It still sucks about the region lock, especially when a game gets announced for North America, like Virtue's Last Reward. I'm very happy that that game only took about a month from Rising Star Games to be published as well over here. So I do have my hopes up high. We have an Etrian Odyssey 4, we have Code of Princess, which are currently the only two games I'm excited for, which have not been officially announced yet. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see how it goes in 2013. I absolutely love my 3DS, man. It's every month I've been playing a great hit. I believe Paper Mario Sticker Star is in my mailbox at the moment. So once I finish up Virtue's Last Reward, it's back to some good old Mario RPGing.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. I think I only played the first Paper Mario, and I think I got halfway through and kind of I think I had focused on another game, and I've been playing so many other games. I haven't had the time to go back to any of the Paper Mario games, but I can't believe we're already up to what is it, the fourth game?
Yeah, this is the fourth game. We had the original Paper Mario, which I've never played on N64. Then we had the Thousand Year Door on the GameCube, which was a great game. Then we had Super Paper Mario, which was more an action platformer, but it was still a great game on the Wii. And now we have, of course, Sticker Star. So yeah, you can also count the other games like Super Mario RPG and the Mario and Luigi series, which kind of fit in the Mario RPG segment. But this is the fourth Paper Mario game. It's been toned down a little bit. They don't have any secondary characters, which looked kind of frightening to me. But I decided, it's the only game in December that I wanted. I just hope it can kind of be in between Thousand Year Door and Super Paper Mario, balance it all out, still have an enjoyable, very fun written dialogue and such. So I hope it's going to be an interesting 20-25 hour journey.
Oh, absolutely. Sounds good, man. I probably would get that on the cheap for me because I'm not a huge Mario fan as I used to be, but hopefully you're able to enjoy that.
Yeah, like the thing with Nintendo games, the first party ones, they stand expensive for so long, so I just decided to buy day one.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
I can understand that.
we'll have to wait and see how it goes. Yeah, I gotta have the Vita now, so maybe it gets sidetracked for a while, but I'm interested in playing it and then be as of together with Virtue's Last Reward. Those are the only 3DS games I have to beat. So, but yeah, let's see. Have I played any other RPGs recently? Yeah, I'm still hating myself that I have not finished Tales of Graces F. Have not played it since May. It's ridiculous. I
If
need to finish that before Ni No Kuni comes out.
if I had to pick the biggest sleeper hit, I knew that that game was going to be popular with Tales fan, and I have to be honest, I haven't been the hugest Tales fan, but I can definitely say that has changed with Grace's F. I can definitely say that's probably my, I can't believe I have to put this as a category, my favorite non-Falcom game of 2012. Because all I could definitely say, I love all the other Falcom games I've played, and I definitely got to say my Falcom fanboyness took um, I'd say at its limit because most of the Falcon games I've played this year have all been Japanese and been replaying old classics. So if I had to basically put into a different category of non-Falcon games, Graces F is my favorite game of 2012. I was sincerely surprised. It is such a good game in every shape or form, and it was one of the most fun RPGs to play in a long time. Had one of the best enhancement systems with the title system,
Yeah,
and
perfect. Oh, love it.
I got addicted. I think I played the game for 10 hours, doing nothing but going around the world, um, but doing different requests at the inns and using the points to upgrade my titles and just maximizing everyone's potential. And it just got crazy. It really did. But I enjoyed the battle system so much. It just became the sole reason to play the game, and having the story was just an incredible bonus because there's such a great cast of characters.
Oh yeah, it's the I've played a little bit more Tales games, and Vesperia was at the top of my list. But with Grace's F, like I said, I've only played 30 hours of it. I kind of stopped playing at the moment where um, you had this desert type area, and you had to go to the next kingdom, which is the one that Hubert was placed in for ever since he left. I needed to go there. I believe it's called Fandal.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vandal. So I needed to go there, and then some other great big games came out around May. Just kind of got distracted, and I wanted to go back to it on multiple occasions, but just haven't booted it up yet. And
You
yeah,
you'll really enjoy once you get to Fendel. It's a different environment, very sad, and it brings a lot to the story. So yeah, it's a really good turning point. So I really enjoyed it.
all
But
right, that sounds really good, and yeah, gameplay wise, it's a great upgrade. It's one of the best battle systems in the Tales game so far. So yeah, eventually I just got distracted. I also finished about four other Tales of games since. So like I finished Tales of Symphonia 1 and 2, Tales of Eternia, we finished Tales of the Tempest, even played Tales of Versus, which is a spin-off game. So yeah, I'm going back to Tales of Graces F. I'll probably play that non-stop together with Path of Radiance during my Christmas break. Going to do that like 6 hour marathons each day and finish them in the holiday season, and be ready for the one and only Ni No Kuni.
absolutely, I think that leads into something I just want to share. Is I recently played the demo, and I think that game is nothing short of breathtaking. One thing I can definitely say that to anyone that has brothers or sisters, little brothers or sisters, or nieces or nephews that wants to get into the RPG genre, I can definitely say that it's this generation's entry point into the genre. The game has a lot going for it, but it also is one of those games that can teach kids how to play role-playing games and get them into the joy of playing RPGs.
Hmm.
Just with the game, I can definitely say it's probably some, if not the best cell shaded game on the PlayStation 3. It's not just the visuals, it's also the animation is just solid. The attention to detail is very reminiscent of the Ghibli films themselves. The voice acting is really good, exception to Mr. Drippy, which is the guy with the bell. He may turn some heads, and you know me, RPG fans. For a long time, I've been an advocate of British voice acting, but I think Mr. Drippy is that point where I have to question whether it's annoying or not. Now, I
I
know,
haven't heard him yet. I haven't heard him yet, but I'm playing Virtue's Last Reward in Japanese now, and there's this awful bunny character. Oh, that's really on Teddy type of level of annoyance.
well, let's just put it this way. When we discussed Xenoblade, you did not like Ryan's voice actor.
Oh, what a joker.
Well, I can definitely say Mr. Drippy's worse. Far, far
Uh,
worse.
there's Japanese
I,
voiceovers included, right?
oh man, it's all of that the UK dialect that's it's really grungy, and they say tidy at the end of every sentence. So yeah, it's one of those words that annoys me. And like I said, I'm an advocate of British voice acting, and I love Yangus, I love Ryan, but there's something about Mr. Drippy's voice actor that kind of finally pushes my buns a little bit. But at the same token, props to Namco Bandai for going the extra mile and giving all the characters different dialects to make them stand out. You know, shows a lot of TLC, and don't want to get my hopes up, but surprisingly, that game didn't sell as well as it should have. It only sold about 190 copies in Japan ever since its release, which is it's pretty shocking. And I
What,
have a feeling
190 units or 190,000?
190,000.
Oh, I
Uh,
was like 190. Come on, man.
that you know
It's
that, that
terrible.
that sounds like one street in Tokyo. But no, no, that for something that big, level 5, that's lower than they usually do.
Yeah, that's
Considering that as a Ghibli production, it's because it's a Ghibli production. I can easily say this: Studio Ghibli has a pull on people in the Western world, not just anime fans. The biggest misconception that the hardcore anime fans love Ghibli. It's actually the other way around. I know a lot of people that don't usually watch anime, but they love the Ghibli films.
oh yeah.
So I definitely think that this game will have a better chance. And because it will appeal to kids, like today, I was talking to my older brother and I heard my 4-year-old nephew in the background playing Ni No Kuni. So that brings high hopes that anyone can jump on board. Because the thing is, we automatically assume that most RPGs are for all audiences. And for the most part, they're not. They're for an older, more teenage audience. When it comes to Persona 4, that game should be played by teenagers because that's the target audience. But it can be for an audience much older and up. But that wouldn't give that game to a very young kid. But with Ni No Kuni, I can definitely say you can get younger kids to play it. You know,
Sounds really exciting. Yeah, like that's that's something I always struggle with. How do I explain my love for Japanese RPGs to other people? How do I explain the genre? And what type of games do I recommend? It's always like, yeah, Final Fantasy. That's probably one of the most accessibles together with Dragon Quest. I know I recommended Dragon Quest 9 to a few people, and they enjoyed it, but it wasn't really their thing. But it's definitely one of those accessible RPGs. But this one sounds fantastic, and I love video gaming a whole lot. But if there's one thing that I love probably the most, it's Studio Ghibli. In terms of my movies, I absolutely love Studio Ghibli. I feel that they're among some of my favorites animation studios out there. I just absolutely love everything that they do and keep supporting them. And this is definitely a dream come true, seeing a Studio Ghibli video game, of course, collaboration with Level 5.
yeah, it's level 5 is the Miracle Makers because up until that point, Hayao Miyazaki was not a fan of video games. Ever since they made the really bad, abysmal Nausicaa games, where you actually killed things, and then Hayao came out of um, wherever he worked and said the whole premise of Nausicaa wasn't random, unnecessary killing,
Yeah.
and he, yeah, did not favor video games for a very long time. So it was amazing to see Level 5 of all people convince them to create an original story for a video game. And yeah, I think it's going to be fantastic. Even though we've been saying that this is a game that can be played by an younger audience, do not be fooled, older gamers. This is for the young and the young at heart. I could definitely say that. As a veteran RPG player, there's a lot to love about this game. And I like the combat system. It's very simple, but one thing that's really surprising is defend actually does something. Usually most RPGs have the defend command, but all of us, we can easily say, hardly uses it. Well, I'm here to say Ni No Kuni, it's a necessity because some bosses have these ultra attacks that deal devastating damage, and the only way to prevent that is to defend. Defending against normal, ordinary attacks don't yield too much, but defending against those ultra attacks is necessary to survive. And the good thing about Ni No Kuni is you will get patterns, you'll figure out patterns in boss fights, you'll get the feeling for when they are going to pull off these major moves, and then set yourself to defense accordingly. And I love that in this game. One thing that makes the game easy but makes it fun is the game throws orbs at you in battle that heal your magic and heal your health very small increments, but at the same time, the thing that makes it interesting is your character Oliver and the familiars he controls shares the same HP and MP, which makes it a bit more simple that you only have to manage one lot of HP and MP. But yeah, I have fun. And the fact you get to control your character just with the left analog stick is not just sitting there, and actually moving away from the enemy does give you some advantage for the enemy to miss you while you're trying to run away from them in the battle. So, no, I really like the battle system.
Sounds really good. I have deliberately not downloaded the demo to keep the enjoyment going. Whenever I get the game, I can just play it for hours on end and finish the entire game without having to see any credit screen. But I am very, very, very excited for this game. I have it on pre-order, the limited edition, ever since April. It's just the game that I want to play at the moment, and it's only about a month away. So 2013 is going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to go off to a fantastic start. I am not going to import that because it's going to have a simultaneous worldwide release. I know I probably could save a lot of money on importing, but I wouldn't save on time, and I just want to get a day one and just play it straight away. So it's going to be worth it, guys.
Yeah, I ordered my copy from Amazon UK, which I really hope they don't mess it up like they did the Sky Art of Final Fantasy order. A whole different story, but I really hope that it gets delivered in like 2 or 3 days, and I'm at home to accept the package and play it. Maybe even take some day off work for that game. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic, and I do have high hopes that everyone will take to it. I know I'll be doing some heavy recommendations from here till the game's released to hopefully get some people that I know in my circle to get it. I know my brother definitely wants to play it, which is really good, really surprising. Hopefully in my neighborhood it'll be sold out and everywhere else across the country. But I hope that it catches on to where I go to my next local convention and see characters being cosplayed from Ni No Kuni. That would make my day.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, for sure. All right, let's see. So yeah, I've actually not been playing any other JRPGs at the moment. I think we already segued into the next thing is, of course, the outlook for 2013. We have, of course, in January, we have Ni No Kuni. We had, of course, talked about Fire Emblem Awakening, which is coming out in February in North America or in April in Europe and Australia. We have, of course, talked about the potential European release and Australian release of Devil Survivor Overclocked, which is coming out soon as well. So yeah, let's see what else is there, at least in the first opening months.
Arrow is pretty much flagging for all the wonderful English-speaking audience, and of course me. I'm the crazy Japanese gamer. Always look at the Japanese release dates. It's actually something in my videos I want to stop because I forget to mention that this is the Japan release, and I confuse a lot of people that watch my videos. But yeah, just anyone who's the import craze like me, Dragon Quest VII comes out February in Japan.
Yeah.
And Trails of the Sky SC is coming out the last week of April. So they're two ones to look out for.
So yeah, let's see. We have, of course, Tales of Xillia, which is announced for 2013 release.
Yep, one of the big Namco Bandai trinity, of course, Ni No Kuni, Tales of Xillia, which I'm really looking forward to. And of course, I would definitely say, if I had to pick one game of 2013 that I'm looking forward to more than anything, and this will surprise a lot of people, maybe not surprise a few, but it's definitely Toki Totowa.
Yeah.
I cannot wait for that game to come out. I've seen a few videos, not spoilers, but I love the visual style of that game to pieces. And I cannot wait to play that game in its entirety.
Is the game officially out in Japan now?
Yes, it's officially out. And
All right.
a lot of people put videos on YouTube, but I've staved off any kind of spoilers.
No, but also there has still not been an official announcement for European and Western release, right?
Yes, but thank God the PS3 is region free.
Yeah, that's true, of course. That's true, but yeah.
And especially with Namco Bandai, well, see, the thing that interests me is that Ni No Kuni is getting a simultaneous worldwide release, even though there was a gigantic gap with Grace's F. And I got my copy from America, and I'm thinking, well, it's probably going to be a while, and it was a while in between the American release and the European release. It was like half a year, which was crazy.
Yeah, February until August. Yeah, I bought both.
Yeah,
The day
so
one edition looked very nice, and I just wanted to support it. So hopefully it will be a little bit shorter between the Western territories. But yeah, I hope that Tales of Xillia comes out somewhere like
yeah,
June, August, somewhere like that, and that we get a Tokitoa statement that it's coming out in the Western world. At least in 2013. That would be great. Looking forward to Tokitoa as well. Looks very fantastic.
Yeah. If of course, if it doesn't pan out, of course, I definitely think that both Tales of Exilia and Tokyo Towa is most definitely import worthy to me. I don't there's no two buts about it. I definitely import them in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's also the recently released Tales of Xillia 2, which with Xillia being out, I think it has a good chance of being released in the West as well. It all depends on the sales, of course, of the first Xillia game, but yeah, it's another big console JRPG. Let's see. I think the other big console JRPG that is coming out is Lightning Returns, Final Fantasy 13.
Really, I wasn't paying attention.
And I have to be honest, I really think, and this is coming from probably one of the most hardcore Final Fantasy fans out there. It's really bad that I couldn't participate in the Final Fantasy Super Fan contest, but um, I think that the game will flop. I
It,
just
it,
don't think I just don't think that it will either satisfy the newcomers, as it's too different. I don't think it will satisfy the people like myself who have enjoyed 13 and 13 too, because they're really steering away in terms of the narrative story. They're moving into some really outrageous end of world territory which doesn't even connect it anymore to the original Cocoon and Pulse. Um, and I just don't think that they do a right job of making this a lightning only story. It's um, they have some really really questionable stuff, and the biggest regrettable thing is why call it Lightning Returns Final Fantasy 13. That just call it Final Fantasy 13 3. They should have just had all the characters up until 13.2 combined in one story with some time travel elements involved, but they got back together and had to fight the all evil stuff like that. Perfect. That would have been the perfect end of the 13 trilogy, but now they do it all lightning superhero solo thing, time traveling, gotta save the world in 9 days, and you can when you play through the game and you haven't saved the world, you got to go back to the beginning and you can try again. The information so far has not amazed me, and of course I'll buy this day one, and I'm sure that I'll enjoy playing it like I have with countless other Final Fantasy games, but the hype is just not there for me at the moment.
well, I've kind of dropped off being a Final Fantasy fan a very long time ago. I'm still an old hat. 10 is probably the last game where my heart truly lied. I definitely say if Sakaguchi and Co. kept continuing making games, I'd probably be as big a fan as Arrow. My heart still lies for the older Final Fantasy games, and I still haven't played 13.2 yet, and I don't know if I'll ever. And then hearing Lightning Returns, I didn't even groan or anything. I just basically didn't care. It's just gone to that point. And I think a lot of fans like myself would just want Square to basically go back to its roots and don't make these big compilation Final Fantasy games anymore. Just focus on one game and then just make the next game the next entry, you know.
Yeah.
If anything's taught me, the biggest lesson that had to be learned in this generation is don't make these big compilation of games because it kind of went against Square this generation, like with the Fabula Nova Crystallis, with Agito, which became Type Zero, and Versus 13, which goodness sakes has been in production forever and is driving me crazy. It really has, and it drives me crazy because it's the best looking game of the three. It looks fantastic, and it's just still in production with hardly any news. And I just, as much as every year I said, next year's make or break, I just, I think it's one of those situations where I just have to not look into it. If it comes out, buy it.
Yeah, it's well, Square has been really strong in terms of handheld porting presence. I've really been enjoying the type of games like Dimensions and Theater Rhythm. They're really strong console output like they had on the PlayStation 1 and on the PlayStation 2. It's gone. They are being overtaken. I've seen it happen, now with Ni No Kuni and the hype it's getting. That type of hype was usually reserved for Final Fantasy, and it's just gone. They really alienated a lot of the old school base. Like I said, I still enjoy the Final Fantasy 13. I really enjoyed it. I still believe it's one of the favorites, out of the bunch, like the top 5. And then 13.2 was a very interesting experiment as well. But now they follow it up with a very strange looking sequel. They don't really get over the course of the, Final Fantasy 13 was their first big console game. They've been not being able to recruit new fan base, the newer generation. I don't really think that they've hit it off in the last couple of years. Looking at the next 2 years, I don't really see them turning out new additional things because we have Lightning Returns. I don't think it will sell very well. Versus 13 is up in the air whether it will be released, and it's probably too late in the generation for a lot of people to care. Kingdom Hearts 3 hasn't even been announced yet. Man, that game should have been out in 2010 or 11. It's ridiculous.
Don't get me started. Like I said, the funniest story of TGS was announcing Kingdom Hearts 1.5. And anyone who knows basic maths, 1.5 is half of 3.
Yeah, it's, I understand the direction they went, with Dream Drop Distance. And everybody was expecting Kingdom Hearts HD Collection. And I understand the whole concept. It's been like 10 years since I played the original Kingdom Hearts 1 and about 8 years since I played Kingdom Hearts 2. Ever playing all these spin-offs, I would like to replay them, sure. But don't split it up with 1.5 and surely 2.5, which is going to spread it out, I hope, for like 9 months, but it will probably be like a year. So in 2014, we'll get Kingdom Hearts 2.5. And then it's probably going to be Kingdom Hearts 3 announced for the next generation console, for the PlayStation 4, and then some years of development. Like, Kingdom Hearts was great. I was 11, 12 years old since the game came out. And those types of games, I grew up with those type of games, but I'm 24 now, and I'm kind of outgrowing that. I still really enjoy those type of games to store, but I'm outgrowing it, let alone 2017. I'll be like 30, 28, 29, something like that. That's scary.
I'm heading to 30 very soon, but I'm pretty much a child at heart, so I can play most RPGs without any worry.
Oh, but, yeah, me too, sure, but it's just, you've been growing up, you lose kind of some of that interest in the whole innocent stuff, but being a story, waiting for it to be resolved for so long is ridiculous. And then we have Versus 13, then we have Type 0 without any announcement, then we have Final Fantasy X HD announced, which has dropped off the face of the earth.
I've actually got some additional information with Type 0 that I think is just sad, and it brings up a whole different conversation with licensing. Apparently, from one website, I was rumored that the game's translation was at 95%, but they had to have an immediate stop to the game due to some content in the game from a third-party source, because like Yakuza and a couple of other Dragon Quest games that's had problems, it contains music from big entertainers, and that has posed a problem with licensing.
Mm.
And I'm like, well, that can't be bad enough to hold the game's production. It's also due to the fact that it's on the PSP, which is on its last legs in most places of the world. Which is really sad, because as Ero and I did our impressions of the demo, it was a very good game.
Yeah.
Very sad that it has not been released yet. But if it was boiled down to the fact that they couldn't release a piece of music and they couldn't just put another, because apparently there's a lot of debacle whether they just take the piece of music out, and someone who's played the game Japanese said it's actually quite pivotal to the story. And I'm like, well, that's not good.
Well, they can just take that part of music out. I think that Square is really waiting on the right time to announce this for a, say, HD PS Vita release, maybe even PSN only. I think that's a very good idea for them to do. Release it on the PlayStation Vita, but as we all know, the sales are not really strong. There is Jump Festa in Japan in a couple of days. Square is going to be there. They're going to be showing off Kingdom Hearts 1.5. They're going to be showing videos of Lightning Returns Final Fantasy 13. They have the entire, Star Galaxy countdown at the moment. So maybe it will bring at least some updates in terms of what Square has been doing. They're also going to be announcing a new game, which you don't want to know the title. It's like Gyro Setter something.
$1 million iOS maker. That's what they should just name it, because that's what it sounds like.
I really want to know. I really want to have the job from the guy who's the titleist at Square, who decides the titles of, I can do an entire 1 hour rant in terms of the most illogical titles that they chosen over the years. It's I love Square. It's my favorite video game company. I grew up with those games. I love it. I love collecting for them. I have one of the hugest collections in the world. But the last 2 years, they have been doing some stuff very good. But in terms of their really, really big releases, the announcements, their caring about their fan base, it's been abysmal, to the point where I'm really not invested in the news announcements anymore. But I'll just wait until we have a Western release announced, and that I'll get hyped up. Where usually I was hyped up for, Final Fantasy IX came out, and I was already hyped up for Final Fantasy X, stuff like that. It's that feeling is pretty much gone, that I only have now with series like Zero Escape, Ace Attorney, Professor Layton, Tales of Fire Emblem, those types of Shin Megami Tensei, Metal Gear Solid as well. But in terms of Square properties, and especially Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, not so much anymore. But I do know that I will support them, for at least the next 5 years.
Of course, you can definitely admit that your passion wants. I mean, that's me and Sega and nutshell. But you do, at some point in the back of your mind, you do pray that they do redeem themselves in a big way. I mean, nobody wants to see a company go down, but most likely you want to see some restructure. And most big Japanese companies need some serious restructuring, because their management is not working, and the so-called target games they are making, it's not working out. It probably is working out in some way, but not for its original audience, that's for certain. Most companies have pretty much forgotten about the old gamers and have moved on to the new audience.
I think I think that a huge issue with a lot of the bigger Japanese game publishers slash developers is that they acknowledge the fact that Western gaming has taken off. It's widely popular and it's kind of, pushed back Japanese gaming. But now, what you see is a lot of these Japanese game companies, they're trying to adapt and release their games to appeal to a Western crowd. And that
And
is just not working at all. It's
yeah,
it's not.
it's not working when the Western world has already tasted Japanese quality games and that's become their standard. That's me in a nutshell. Growing up with games ever since the Master System era, made in Japan. And
Yeah.
I love those styles of games. And I hardly play anything made outside of Japan. So when most companies like Square Enix is trying to make a game that pretty much appeals to all the audience, it's going to alienate, a lot of people. And I know it does with me.
Yeah, but if you for instance take a look at some true Japanese video game companies who have kept on continuing what they do best, and that's make great games but upgrading it, in terms of graphics and such. Look at Tales of, now they have a widespread love in the West. Look at Shin Megami Tensei. They have keep doing what they do best in Japan. It eventually grew to the West, and now they have a huge new fan base, but they're not caving under the pressure of making it more like, the Call of Duty and Halo generation. They keep
No,
doing what they do best and then release it in the West. That's perfect, and that's what Square needs to do. That's why I love Final Fantasy Dimensions and Theater Rhythm Final Fantasy so much. It was a celebration of what makes Final Fantasy awesome, and that's not what they should do with a Final Fantasy 15. They really should do it, and I would highly encourage them to not only go back to their roots but incorporate something very innovative into it, where we have, for instance, seamless co-op play online, and then do it in a back to the roots like Final Fantasy 129 type of world, with characters, and that certain people can join your game and they can play as those characters. They can take control of those characters. Wonderful graphics again, um, but focus on the main core, and that is telling a story, going through a new world, meeting people in the world, experiencing this wonderful journey for yourself, but also with the added value of being able to enjoy it with other people who can join your game. You can go on quests together, but not turning it into an MMORPG. No, 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 not like that. But being able to go on this journey with multiple people, uh, while still being able to enjoy this story, this narrative story that's at heart, instead of the MMORPG style that is not really focused on story all that much, and then character customization. Just have the characters that we grew up to love with 1 to 10, and maybe even 12 and 13 thrown in there, and then but doing something innovative, not only focusing on a single player. I think that will win back a lot of stuff, but throwing in this new online co-op mechanic while staying true to the turn-based aspects of what makes Final Fantasy awesome. And then say, for instance, people would be able to play in a 4 or 5 character party, and everybody is able to just work their own turn-based stuff. I am able to pick my options, and then you'll be able to pick your options. I think that will be fan-fucking-tastic with gorgeous graphics like we've seen with the Fox engines type Agnes philosophy. I think that would be a million seller.
yeah. I mean, it's funny that they came out with that statement saying that they're not going to release Final Fantasy VII Remake until they make a game that surpassed it, which I can definitely say that's just arrogant.
Yeah,
Develop,
impossible to do. It's like
yeah.
introducing the entire world to a fantastic genre. Going to 3D. That can never be done again.
No, as much as I've played all the RPGs up to that point. Final Fantasy VII is such a unique experience. No wonder it attracted people outside of the hardcore RPG fan base. But if everyone is screaming for Final Fantasy VII, and you have a large following that's willing to give you money at full price, then it's pretty much an investment that, I would gladly put money towards, but no.
If I were, if I were in the position, I would have done so. Would have made the decision back around 2009. I would say, yes, we are doing a remake of Final Fantasy VII. We are also working on, the next big game like 13 and Versus. But yes, we are doing it. We're going to be releasing it in celebration of the something something anniversary, and being able to introduce a whole new generation to one of the most beloved video games, and do it and give it a show how it needs to be done, in a good way, not rushing it or anything like they did with the recent PC version. But yeah, they decided not to, and maybe they are able to redeem themselves in terms of the next generation. I know they lost a lot of time on their hands creating their own engine on which 13 is running. I know that that cost a lot of time to get into the whole new generation. Hopefully they can get into the next generation way earlier. But what I also feel is, I don't know who is this, whether it's the designers or it's on the management level. They have a lot of people who are creating these games, and if you look at Advent Children, they have these sort of flashy, they prefer style over substance. They have these flashy animation combat scenes, in terms of telling in a very emotional story, like Sakaguchi was so good at. That has definitely changed, that type of philosophy. Just look at the opening of Final Fantasy 13, where Lightning is on the train and going crazy. It is cool, but they've gone overboard with that whole perception of cool and flashy action scenes, instead of just going through the substance and having a very great story. Like 13 had a very emotional story, and that's why I got invested in it so much. But they have not done that with many of the other games that they have released.
No, it'd be interesting to see how the shift will happen in the next couple of years. Whether they're able to basically squeeze the releases before the end of the PS3 cycle. And trust me, they're not alone there. There's a certain, as much as we've talked very positively for the most part about Atlas, we should not forget that they still have Persona 5 in production that had a pixel shown to the world.
Yeah. but let's not forget one very important thing. PlayStation 2 was pretty much done for back in 2006, and then Persona 3 came out, and Persona 4 came out in like 2008, at the end of 2008, where that console was pretty much done for. So again, Atlas worked a very long time on developing a next gen engine with Catherine. I hope that they will definitely announce for something at the start of 2014, being able to release their really next big title, which is probably going to be Persona 5, as SMT IV is going to be released on the on a 3DS on the handheld. So they better be very open and honest about it and say Persona 5 is coming this generation, or no, we're not going to be doing that. Don't get your hopes up high. We'll save it until the next generation.
They're very, very much in league with Square Enix with the same business practices, how they've had these games planned, but then all these mini projects come up and take precedence. It's not just Final Fantasy 13 Versus. I mean, Persona 5 has been in production for a while now, but when I see the ton of games that Atlas has announced and has been working on, I can't help but imagine that time could have been used to release Persona 5 sooner. I mean, you can take it as good or bad because of all these wonderful games, even though most of them are ports. Most of the games that Atlas have worked on is ports of Like just besides Soul Hackers, Persona 2, Innocent Sin, and of course Japan has a portable version of Eternal Punishment. So yeah, it's interesting. I just pray that we'll get games like Versus 13 and Persona 5 before the end of the PS3's life cycle. And like you said with Persona 5, it would be nice if Atlas comes out with a statement saying, hey, we'd rather work on next gen technology and bring Persona 5 as a launch or first year title. That would be really good. But
Yeah.
my personal wish list is for those two games and Trails of the Sky FC and SC to be available in English on PlayStation 3. And the system can go off with a gigantic bang.
Yeah, that's definitely true. There are definitely some more games that I would love to see, but those aren't on the PlayStation 3. Like the games we already discussed, I hope those will be localized. I really hope that we'll see that on the PlayStation 3. I'm not getting my hopes up high on anything Xbox 360. That's not going to happen. And of course, the Wii U.
No, no, that system has gone well and truly into overtime. I know the guys at Microsoft said that their next system will come out next year and are better because if it doesn't come out till 2015, then that system has been out for a decade straight.
Yeah,
Which is
that's true. I really think that it's coming out at the end of 2013. But I had a discussion, on Skype recently where I was kind of looking into the Xbox 360. It was the first next gen console that I bought. But looking at the games that I'm enjoying now and being able to, enjoy a lot of Japanese games, the Xbox 360 had that support at the start, but it hasn't had it, in the last couple of years. The only real Japanese support that they had was from Cave with the shmups. But if there's not going to be any JRPG uh, exclusives, so for instance maybe the next Final Fantasy will be multi-platform, who knows? But if there's not going to be any exclusives in terms of Japanese games, and especially RPGs or shmups or visual novels and that type, most likely RPGs, and then I'm probably not going to buy the next Xbox and just wait for the PlayStation, as that's probably the thing that I'm betting on, is that they are able to continue with this whole slew of wonderful JRPGs, the Tales series, Atlas and Falcom supporting the new system as well. And of course Square Enix releasing on there as well. And I always have high hopes that even though not JRPG, that Kojima Productions is also doing exclusive stuff for the PlayStation 4. So as a Japanese gamer, I don't really see a lot of potential in the supposedly Xbox the 3 with Japanese game support. I really don't, and if that's not going to happen, then I'll probably stay clear of the entire system.
Yeah, I agree with you. Most of the exclusive games, aside from Lost Odyssey, which did very well, however, Microsoft does not have Mistwalker in their corner, so don't
Nope.
count on another Lost Odyssey game.
No,
Um,
and we had Blue
most-
Dragon, of course, which I really enjoyed as well. So
yeah, which also kind of defected to the other consoles with their spin-off games as well.
yeah,
So if you're talking about exclusive games like Infinite Undiscovery, I didn't think did that too well in
no,
Japan. Those games were considered to be system sellers. Now, Tales of Vesperia for me is the system seller. I actually have a copy and I still haven't got an Xbox yet. And I'm buying an Xbox hopefully in 2013 just to play Tales of Vesperia. But the cruel irony of that is, if this was Japan, if I lived in Japan, I could
yeah,
easily walk down the street and get the PS3 enhanced version,
yeah.
and
That's yeah. It's
I
not
would have
released. That's yeah. I really looked at my Xbox 360 library, and the only games that come to mind is Lost Odyssey, Blue Dragon, Tales of Vesperia, and then you have indeed Infinite Undiscovery and technically Last Remnant. But those games were made by Square when once again they were really by Square and Tri-Ace when they were still working on their own engine. If that was already completed, I'm sure those games would have been multi-platform.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Last Remnant was a tricky one because that was meant to be originally a PS3 game and then got ported to the Xbox 360 and PC, and originally got focused. Then it got focused on the 360 and the PC,
Yeah.
and even the game suffered from some terrible frame rate issues. So yeah, I seriously think if Namco Bandai's taught anyone, they're doing better business with the Tales series on the Sony handhelds. With one thing I've noticed, because in that generation they were more focused on many consoles, like all their portable games was most likely at first going to the DS, then most went to the PSP, and then they did Vesperia for 360, and then and they did most of their console ones on the Wii. But then when they did the PS3, they took a chance, and then Grace's F became one of the best-selling if not the best-selling Tales game of all time. I don't know if it's been Symphonia, but it sold over 200,000 copies in America, which is really, really good for a
Yeah,
Tales.
definitely. And if you look at the recent output of say Namco Bandai, they're completely steering away. Like they are not supporting Microsoft anymore. They've even not been supporting Nintendo for about 3 years now. With I believe Graces being the last game on the Wii, and then Hearts on the DS. And all those games are being ported to either the PlayStation Vita or PlayStation 3 now. So yeah, we have Level 5, which has predominantly always been a Sony exclusive, developer, except then of course Dragon Quest was released on the DS, and now with Dragon Quest 10. Oh no, sorry, they haven't helped development. So, but with Ni No Kuni, and Time Travelers and stuff, and then they have Layton on the DS. But in terms of the JRPGs, have always been Sony. So um, I'm really putting my chips on Sony's PlayStation 4. It's going to be probably 2-3 years until we get it. But I think a lot of JRPG developers need to continue working on the PlayStation 3, get a fan base there, and then inevitably just move on to the PlayStation 4. While if they want to, also focus on the handheld crowd and kind of see how that's going to develop, because that's a tricky one. You don't want to go all out on the PlayStation Vita like Falcom is doing, while the system is not really doing so well yet. So that's kind of a risky thing, to go all out on 3DS or PlayStation Vita. But yeah, if you look at say Zero Escape, Virtue's Last Reward, just port them to both. It's possible.
Yeah, well, I think Falcom's riding the wave of success from the PSP era, because they had a
Yeah.
really good era with the PSP, and they support that device from start to finish. And I think it really did was the right choice. One thing that's really surprising is that it's not it's the fact is the biggest thing that sells in Japan for Falcom is Trails in the Sky. East, I can definitely say this, is a big seller worldwide. I think we're slowly coming up to the point where Xseed has sold more copies of East 7 than Falcom did in Japan, which is just pure insanity.
Yeah.
But that goes to show that East belongs to the world. And let me tell you this now, a lot of people has been touched by Trails in the Sky, but it hasn't gotten to the same craze as it has in Japan. And a
No,
lot of
that's
people,
true. That's true. There's a very dedicated following currently in the West, but there's outside of that, there's not a lot of people finding out about Trails in the Sky, and that's yeah. In
I,
Japan, it's really crazy at the moment. Yeah, that's true.
I think more people just have to get on board, because I can definitely say that I've read a lot of reviews from users and big companies alike. There's a lot of people that rate Trails in the Sky in such high regard. And it's kind of sad that it's on a system that's on its way out. But to anyone who owns a PSP and you don't have it, you have to take a chance, because it's the quintessential JRPG story of the last 10 years. One of the best one of the best cliffhangers ever.
Yeah,
That's
it's like it's the JRPG that got me back into it, And I would definitely say that, together with Persona 4 and maybe Tales of Grace's F and potentially Ni No Kuni, those are probably the 4 JRPGs of like that mattered the last 10 years. You could have been in coma for 10 years, come back, play those 4, and you'll be right up to speed.
Yeah, absolutely. So it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. It's a very interesting time now. I think a lot of people, both in the West and Japan, they're getting tired of the current generation. We're slowly seeing new consoles. We're already 3 out of 5. With the 3DS, the Vita, and the Wii U. Um, I think it's getting harder for Japanese developers to create a full console title, but it's still possible. Look at Namco Bandai, look at Level 5, look at Square still doing their job, and then we have of course Nipponichi, who's been doing their stuff. Atlas, we have Falcom, all these great companies who are hanging in there. There are some few more that are struggling, like Konami and Sega. Their RPG department is especially their influence in the West is nearly gone. Perhaps they can get back into it, but
With Konami, I definitely say that their power lies outside the RPG genre. And before we end our final episode, I do want to touch upon a lot of Suikoden-ness that was originally planned for an episode, but I think I'll condense it down into one last final message. But in terms of Konami support, it lies definitely outside of the RPG genre, which, of course, it's sad, but at the same time, I play Metal Gear, sometimes get away from RPGs. It's my favorite non-RPG game.
Me too.
And yeah, of course. And, they proudly hold that title. So, of course, if Konami keeps focusing solely on Metal Gear games, that would make me too happy, And it still makes me happy that a lot of people still support Metal Gear Solid. And why not? It's a fantastic fan base, and you are taken care of by Hideo Kojima. I love it. This is an RPG podcast that's going on a very slow little tangent, but I just want to get it out there. I think Hideo Kojima is one of the best video game developers. That is probably the only one in the industry that understands the mind of a gamer. And
both in Japan and in the West.
Yes. And, just recently when we're just recording this, there's just this great big mystery surrounding, the Phantom Pain. And it's like, this is what Kojima does to his fans. He knows that his fans are intelligent, insightful people and loves deciphering code and messages. And when everyone's now on this, well, I think within the last 5 hours, everyone has broken the code and figured out what the Phantom Pain is. But man, what a great trailer,
If it truly is Metal Gear Solid 5, we don't know for sure, but I woke up tomorrow just seeing Phantom Pain, mysterious developer. I don't care. And then Happy Console Gamer, we were talking about it, and I'm like, I'm a believer, man. This is Metal Gear Solid 5, man. It's my second favorite franchise behind Final Fantasy and before Shin Megami Tensei. I just love it, and I just recommend it wholeheartedly. Yeah, I just love the Metal Gear Solid franchise, and Konami is a great company, but making RPGs is not their core business, and that's why they have such a rocky past. At some point they were very influenced, with Suikoden series, but now Suikoden series it's slowly dying. There's been they should have ported, they should have re-released Suikoden 1 and 2 to kind of ride the wave again, see some more support in both the West and Japan, but they haven't done so. They're still making a few RPGs for the handhelds now and then, like Frontier Gate and Beyond the Labyrinth, but probably not going to be coming out there, and it's not their core business. Same like Sega, it's not their core business of making JRPGs. You could of course say that Yakuza is now their most popular, together with Sonic. That can be seen as an RPG series, but Yeah, there are other RPGs like Skies of Arcadia and the Valkyria Chronicles. It's not their core business. It's not their deciding factor. It's not whether they live or die if they release it or whether it does well. So same for Capcom. Look at Ace Attorney. Once again, not their core RP, not their core business of doing those types of games. So that's why we are getting more disappointed by those companies and seeing that the management within Japan or the management within the United States and the Europe regions, they don't care. They just only care about their main core titles, and those are the Sonics and the Resident Evils and the Street Fighters and the Metal Gear Solids, of course. So that's what sucks. But luckily, we still have those core RPG developers out there, like 6 or 7 companies that I truly love and I continue to support for years and years to come, for sure.
It's an interesting thought because most of these big Japanese companies began in the 80s and the 90s, evenly distributing different genres across the board. And it was in those days, it was never, you could never get a feel for what the company excelled at because they were producing equal parts. I mean, back in those days, you can easily say something like Capcom was probably the best at fighting games because everyone liked Street Fighter. But then they bring out something like, Ghouls and Ghosts for platforming, and then years later bring out Breath of Fire.
Yeah,
You know,
precisely. Very diverse
yeah,
companies. Like Square Enix, they've done the same. They've even released a shmup. They've made attempts at getting into the fighting series. Now Konami does the same. Very very diverse companies, and you see those are still around, and those very bigger companies, they are focusing on their core now. Those the biggest IPs, and it's it's very it's very sad to see that. I can understand focusing more on one genre, but just be honest about it. Uh, I feel that whether you have a series, you gotta either treat it well or not treat it at all. Don't bring out lackluster sequels and disappointing everybody out there. Like I haven't played Suikoden in a very very long time. I still have a lot of their games to play, but I know that they have been dropping in terms of quality, and that's very disappointing. And the same has happened with a lot of other series and uh, you know IPs in the past. So that's
I,
how I feel about it. Do it well or don't do it at all.
well, in case, say, to be honest, Sega has made it blatantly obvious that they don't really want to produce RPGs outside of Japan because they're going still smoothly with the Seventh Dragon series has now become a big thing over there. Of course, they're producing their version of the Shining games that I do not care for anymore.
Yeah.
And these games will not come outside Japan. That's just for certain, unless some third-party developer like distributor like Xseed or Axis takes a chance on them. That's just me. Me personally, I don't want to give up on Konami because I actually recently, something I don't usually do. I don't go to Twitter pages or Facebook requesting something. But recently, I have joined a huge fan base of Suikoden fans known as the Suikoden Revival Group. And the wonderful people of this group have been campaigning to get, well, for the most part, they want Suikoden 6, which I think is a long way off. However, the very humble, reasonable request is to get Suikoden 2 on PSN. And I'm going to say this now, RPG fans, as my final word here on RPGibberish. I love Suikoden more than any other series ever made. I desperately, more than anything, would want to see my favorite game of all time be available to everyone. I have heard that they've had problems emulating the game to the right format that needs to be on PSN. And they say they've given up because they've had issues. Well, I have to say this. Other companies have had the same issues. Square Enix has had issues bringing out Xenogears and Chrono Cross, but they stood fast, and they worked out the problem, and they produced wonderful copies that now can be played on PS3s, PSPs, and PS Vitas. So, and look at Trails of the Sky SC in Japan. That game took forever to get on PSN. They wanted to put that on PSN back in 2007, 2008, and they couldn't. And everyone was under the opinion that they would never get that on PSN. Only just a couple of months ago, they finally worked out the problem and succeeded in putting the entire game on PSN. And my belief is this led to the HD version on the Blu-ray. All I can say is to Konami, take your time, don't give up, a solution will present itself. And in the case of Suikoden 2, it's more than worth it. I do not want to see my favorite series forgotten, and as long as I breathe, I will always continue to support the series. I will always reminisce, and I always support the series. Even though I have not got Centennial Tapestry, it's finally come down in price, and I think I'd better get it very, very soon because I've actually wanted to play it. And yeah, that's my final word. As one of the co-hosts of RPGibberish, I hope everyone who's listened to all our episodes, if you haven't already, go play a Suikoden game. It still remains to me the best RPG series of all time, and is well worth playing any way possible.
Yeah, I can wholeheartedly agree with you on that, Greg. It's Suikoden is one of the fantastic experiences that I had. It's one of those few JRPGs that I played back in the day, back in the past, together with Final Fantasy. And the first two games are just wonderful experiences. I know that only Japan has been treated to any type of remake in terms of Suikoden 1 and 2. I know we've seen Suikoden 1 on PSN. But there definitely needs to be more support, and I think it's very good to have this entire generation not having to pay ridiculous amounts of money to be able to experience it, but just being able to release it in a in a remake on digital download, being able to experience this game at least. And all I can say is there's another company which needs to take this into account, and that is Nintendo. For their Mother series. I love the Mother series as well, and I really feel that Earthbound and Mother 3 need to get more support and digital remakes out there as well. That needs to be supported. In the case of Mother 3, also needs to be localized in English as well. And then those are two fantastic JRPG series out there which need to get more support and have been those elusive types of games where we now live in the digital download era, and it should have been released out there, for sure.
The future of gaming lies with cooperation with the fan bases. Take a page from Xseed's books with how they went about the East games with paying for the translations that's pretty much already done and fine-tuning them, which definitely cut down on production time. There is a lot of great fan translations out there that exceed some proper game productions. If only if companies would take an extended hand into basically, I can tell you now, most of these people that translate these games do not do it for money. They do it so everyone in their community can experience the game in the native tongue. And if the game was basically had an offer to put on a much better network where people can download it. Say, for instance, if Nintendo made an offer for the people that just finished Mystery of the Emblem and put that on the eShop, the 3DS, I'd download that. I'd definitely pay for that. Hopefully just companies in general, in order to create a more bright future in the gaming, to work with their fans in releasing these games, and it'll be a better place.
Oh yeah, those are some very important words, especially for the Japanese RPG community out there. There's such a huge fan base that just loves and enjoys these games, but not always is able to speak Japanese in their native language. And translating these to English is probably the next best thing. And I really hope that in the years to come we will see more listening to the fan base, more collaborations between fan translations, being supported, even though if a company say doesn't want it, at least being able to let people fan translate it and without any issues whatsoever. Of course, no money must be gained by those fan translators, but listen to their fan base, work out a good strategy on how to get back into the market for some of these companies. Keep doing what you do best for say some great JRPG companies out there. Keep continue what you're doing. Know that there's a huge fan base in the West. People are definitely willing to buy your games, and essential what it comes down to is if you're going to make a Japanese RPG or Japanese game, keep in mind that there are Western fans out there of your series and want to play it as well. So please keep, in terms of coding, keep it into effect that at some point it needs to be translated. So things like Grand Knight Histories, Persona 4 Arena, those things won't happen again where they run into translation issues of being able to bring it to the West, or in case of Persona 4 Arena, in terms of to the PAL regions. Keep in mind that the world is out there. People want to play these games, so make it more easier on the English translators out there, just having for them to insert the text. And even though I know that a lot of Japanese struggling with English, know that there's a big fan base out there, and your products will indeed sell. It might not go for the millions and millions, but look at some great examples that have just become sellers, like E7, and the more widespread popularity of Atlas and Talesoft, and to all the other JRPG companies that are scared of unwilling to go, that's financial gain, and there's not a lot of investment that needs to be made. Like, look at Xseed. I believe the main translator working at Xseed now was a fan translator doing this for fun, and he is now working there steadily, and he's probably enjoying his job on a daily basis, except for all the death threats that he get for Trails in the Sky second chapter. But there is definitely a great support in the West of being able to help you release these games over in the West, and people will buy them and support them for years and years to come. And I really hope that that's going to happen.
Just very quickly, mostly freelancers, but they've been with Falcom for a very long time, but it's mostly freelance work. But yeah, like as Eric couldn't have said it better, that's the future of our niche subgroup of hardcore RPG fans. And of course that's of course appealing into the wider market. Of course, we can enjoy the games for ourselves, or the tech-savvy people that can play it any way possible. But I'm one of those people that just likes to see these games on a much wider scale, on a more reliable way of playing them, and hopefully in the future with, the Wii U's Wii Shop, the next variation of PlayStation Network that's going to exist for the Vita, and of course for the PlayStation 4, we will see some even more obscure RPG titles be able to play in English.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think, of course, with gaming, it has grown considerably over the past, and wherever something grows, something else might not grow as fast. And Japanese gaming has had some rough patches, but I think it would go through there. I've been able to, meet a lot of great new series, as well as, meet a lot of great new other fans in the world out there through these games. So I will definitely continue to support them, for the years to come. And I just hope that that we as Western non-Japanese speakers, who love your games, be treated, with a little bit more respect, and with more honesty, and being more open-minded. And whether you have no intentions whatsoever in terms of releasing a game, just say so. Then we can at least set our expectations straight and focus on the other games that do get released. I think that's a very important aspect as well.
Absolutely.
So yeah, with the Facebook, with Twitter, with great communities out there. I have been able to get in contact with some of these publishers, hopefully next with the developers as well, being more in contact. That there are a lot more, Japanese developers, like say the producer of the Tales series has been taking a lot of questions from the Western world in account as well. So I think we have a bright future ahead of us, and if you're looking at the upcoming years, we have some great things to look forward to. So I look forward to be part of the Japanese RPG community for the upcoming years.
Absolutely. You'll always be with me for life.
Oh yeah, definitely. As long as I play video games, I'll make sure to play Japanese RPGs, as they're definitely a fantastic genre. So yeah. Oh yeah, go ahead.
With that, I think ends the final episode of RPGibberish. I would like to just say a humble thank you to you, Arrow, for being the major co-host.
No problem whatsoever. It was a joy. It was a struggle at some times, but this episode alone, I really enjoy it. And who knows what the future will bring? But like I said, we will focus on our channels first. So we'll see how that develops, and of course, being able to enjoy the games. So it's definitely a great run in terms of RPGibberish. I really enjoyed it.
I'd just like to take the time to thank all our friends, all our guest hosts on RPGibberish, and to all our listeners for staying with us this long. Hope you got a kick out of it. We certainly did, making these, but all good things must inevitably come to an end or take a huge break. But for that, I, RPG Swagman, just would like to say, if you would like to chat with me about RPGs, you can go to my YouTube channel, RPG Swagman, where I will now be conducting most of my business, which I'm really looking forward to. But, if you want to chat to me about any RPG series, I am more than welcome to have a hearty conversation with.
All right. I'll definitely continue to do so in the future. And for those out there who want to talk to me about RPGs, definitely check out my channel as well, Aerodynamish. I try to release as much video content as possible on these wonderful games. So we're going to keep supporting these wonderful games on our channels. And I definitely also, like Greg mentioned, I want to thank everybody for listening, as we had a great run, and the support was definitely great to keep us continue making these podcasts. So enjoy all those wonderful JRPGs out there, and whatever video game genre you enjoy, continue gaming, and we'll talk to you on our regular channels. I want to thank everybody for listening and watching this, and we'll see you next time.